Have you ever felt like you and your partner are speaking two different languages, even though you both yearn for the same connection? Or maybe you've wondered why certain conversations with the opposite gender seem so loaded, so easily misinterpreted? If you've ever questioned why understanding and harmony between men and women can feel like navigating a maze, this book is your guide. Two Minds, One Heart. Unlocking the Secrets of Gender Psychology, written and published by Mindful Literary, delves deep into the intricate dance of human connection. It goes beyond cliches and stereotypes, offering you profound insights into the psychology that drives men and women, not to divide us, but to illuminate the ways we complement and complete each other. At the heart of every relationship lies a desire for understanding, for that moment when someone truly gets you. Yet, our differences in communication styles, emotional needs, and ways of expressing love often become barriers rather than bridges. These differences, far from being flaws, are the threads that weave the rich tapestry of human relationships. This book is here to help you appreciate and navigate those threads with grace. Imagine this. The male mind is like a laser-focused, solution-oriented, and practical. The female mind, in contrast, is more like a web, weaving emotions, intuition, and connection into every thought. Both approaches are powerful, but when misunderstood, they can create tension. Together, though, they form a dynamic partnership, a yin and yang of human psychology that, when understood, fosters deeper intimacy and trust. Throughout this book, we'll explore how the roots of these differences stem from biology, psychology, and cultural influences. We'll uncover how these factors shape everything from the way we communicate to how we approach conflict, love, and connection. Through relatable stories, real-world examples, and practical exercises, you'll gain tools to bridge the gaps and enrich your relationships. This isn't just a book about romantic partnerships. Whether you're navigating workplace dynamics, parenting, friendships, or family ties, the principles of gender psychology ripple into every aspect of your life. Understanding these principles isn't about learning to win or compromise. It's about building deeper, more meaningful connections, one conversation, one shared moment at a time. So, I invite you to approach this journey with curiosity and an open heart. Let go of old assumptions and be willing to see yourself and others in a new light. Whether you're seeking to strengthen a romantic bond, better understand your family, or simply improve your communication with others, the wisdom within these pages will transform how you approach relationships. Because in the end, despite our differences, there is one undeniable truth. Beneath the layers of gender, culture, and conditioning, we are all human, and our deepest desire is the same: to love and to be loved. This is the heart of connection, the bridge between two minds. Let's begin. Introduction. Two Minds, One Heart. Why understanding gender psychology matters. Understanding gender psychology can be the secret sauce in our relationships, and who wouldn't want to spice things up a bit? Picture this. You're in a conversation with someone, and suddenly there's a shift in the air. Maybe it's a misunderstanding. Maybe it's the classic he said, she said dilemma that turns a simple chat into a full-blown debate. This happens more often than we'd like to admit. That's where gender psychology struts in like it owns the place. It helps us grasp the nuances of how men and women often view situations differently, influenced by a mix of social norms, upbringing, and personal experiences. By recognizing these differences, we can navigate our relationships with more grace and less drama, turning potential conflicts into opportunities for connection instead. Every day is basically a masterclass in gender perspectives, whether we realize it or not. Think about the last time you tried to plan a group outing. You probably encountered various opinions on where to eat or what movie to watch, reflecting different societal views of enjoyment or relaxation. Men and women may prioritize different aspects based on what they've been taught to value or how they've been conditioned to behave. This constant dance of communication is more entertaining than most sitcoms, often filled with amusing misunderstandings and eye-rolling moments. Additionally, gender psychology shines a light on how stereotypes can sometimes blind us to the individuality of the people we interact with. By actively engaging with and questioning these perspectives, we can enhance our interactions, leading to richer dialogues and deeper relationships. The next time someone pulls a classic trope on you, remember to chuckle, appreciate the comedy, and shift the narrative. Your understanding can transform these small moments into gold mines of connection. A simple tip to boost your awareness is to pause and consider the gender perspective when conflicts arise. Ask yourself how cultural backgrounds might be influencing emotions and reactions. This can open the door to understanding and patience, revealing that we're all just trying to navigate this relationship roller coaster together. Breaking free from stereotypes, a new lens for connection. We all carry a mental library of stereotypes. These assumptions can color our perceptions and interactions. Think about it. Have you ever dismissed someone based on their attire or their job? Society has a way of simplifying identities into catchy labels that, while convenient, can lead us down a rabbit hole of misunderstanding. For instance, labeling someone as the sporty one or the nerd may seem harmless, but it often overlooks the complexity of who they truly are. Stereotypes not only limit our view of others, but confine individuals to narrow personal narratives that may feel comfortable yet largely inaccurate. When we tear down the walls of stereotypes and allow for individuality, something incredible happens. Connections deepen. Imagine sitting with a group of friends, and rather than sticking to the usual boxes we've assigned ourselves, everyone shares a quirky interest they've been too afraid to mention. I mean, who knew Greg from accounting had a passion for fire breathing? Suddenly, you're not just seeing each other as roles in a corporate environment, but as unique human beings with varied passions and stories. Embracing individuality allows us to celebrate the rich tapestry of our experiences. When we explore beyond the labels, we can form bonds rooted in honesty and authenticity instead of superficial understandings of one another. The next time you feel the urge to pigeonhole someone into a stereotype, consider a different approach. Ask about their interests, dreams, and weird collections. You might find that people are much more than their outside appearances or societal roles. This shift in perspective can lead to fascinating conversations and unexpected friendships. Just remember, the quirkiest details often make someone relatable. Let this awareness guide you to connect more sincerely with those around you, and you might discover a world that's far richer and more colorful than the black and white pictures we often paint with stereotypes. A journey toward harmony. What this book will teach you. This journey will unlock insights about male and female psychology that might surprise you. It's fascinating how our minds work differently, shaped by biology, culture, and life experiences. For instance, men might lean towards problem solving, while women often excel in emotional intelligence. This isn't to say one is superior, it's just how we've often been wired. We'll explore these differences with humor and fun anecdotes, showing that understanding each other is the first step toward empathy and connection. You'll learn about the strengths each gender brings to relationships, and how to navigate the delightful chaos of those differences. As we move forward, it's crucial to set realistic expectations for our personal growth. Change doesn't happen overnight, and that's totally okay. Embracing the quirks of male and female psychology means acknowledging that misunderstandings will happen. We'll tackle those awkward moments together, using them as catalysts for understanding rather than frustration. This isn't a race. It's more like a leisurely stroll through a beautiful park, with a few unexpected detours. Expect laughs, some eye rolls, and plenty of aha moments as we dive deeper into the sea of human behavior. Always remember, acceptance is key. The more you learn to appreciate the differences, the easier it becomes to build bridges instead of walls. This book isn't just about learning theories. It's about real-life applications that can enhance your relationships. So, keep an open mind, and let's embark on this enlightening adventure together. A practical tip to keep in mind. Whenever you find yourself in a communication jam, take a deep breath and remind yourself that it's about understanding, not winning. Chapter 1, Nature and Nurture, the Blueprint of Gender. Born this way, the biological foundations of gender. Delving into the biological aspects that influence gender reveals a fascinating world where science meets our everyday lives. Let's face it, it's not just about the clothes we wear or the toys we played with as kids. Our biology plays a significant role in shaping who we are. Hormones, which are like tiny messengers, swirl through our bodies, instructing us on everything from mood swings to sexual orientation. For instance, have you ever noticed how testosterone tends to up the ante when it comes to aggression and competitiveness? That's biology in action. It's like nature's very own reality show, and we're all unwitting contestants, each playing our unique roles based on those invisible chemical cues. This is not to say that biology is an excuse to act like a caveman. Rather, it's an explanation of some of our proclivities, making the complex dance of gender all the more intriguing. Discussing genetic predispositions takes us even deeper into this biological rabbit hole. Researchers have begun to untangle the intricate web of genes that may influence our behavior. There's a chance that some behaviors traditionally regarded as feminine or masculine have a biological basis, encoded in our DNA. For instance, the infamous warrior gene, linked to aggression, sparks interesting conversations about how genetics might tip the scale on traits we often associate with gender. Imagine your genes throwing a little party, deciding who gets more of the assertive traits. The party never quite ends there, as the environment and social context also crash the gathering, mixing up the cocktails of nature and nurture. So, while we might be predestined to lean toward certain behaviors, it's not the entire story, and we constantly remix it with our experiences and choices. Understanding these biological foundations offers practical insights into our interactions. If we acknowledge that some of our ways of being may stem from our biology, it could help us cultivate empathy. Perhaps the next time someone seems overly competitive or sensitive, we might calmly remind ourselves that there's a lot more at play than mere personality quirks. By appreciating the biological nuances behind gender, we open a dialogue that celebrates diverse expressions of being complex, chaotic, and ultimately human. Shaped by the world, the impact of culture and society. The moment a baby is born, they enter a world rich in expectations and beliefs. From the color of their crib to the toys we choose, culture starts shaping their gender roles even before they can say mama or dada. It's fascinating and a bit comical to consider how much we project onto these little bundles of joy. Parents may pick soft pinks or bold blues, believing they are setting the stage for who this child will become. This innocent choice could lead to significant impacts. A little girl in pink may receive dolls, while a boy in blue ends up with action figures. This dance of association adds layers to their identity long before they have any real understanding of gender dynamics. Watching how society connects colors and types of play with gender roles makes me chuckle. It's as if we believe a color can dictate future aspirations. But there's deeper psychology at play here. These early experiences set the groundwork for how gender norms are internalized. As children grow, societal expectations come charging in like an eager puppy. Boys are expected to be tough and stoic, while girls are often nudged towards warmth and nurturing. It's almost hilarious when you think about it. If a young lad picks up a doll, he might receive strange looks, while a little girl choosing a truck could be met with surprise. This bizarre performance of masculinity and femininity can strain the creativity and individuality of kids. We assign scripts to children that they may not want to follow, all based on the societal checklist of what it means to be male or female. These expectations start to creep into their self-perception and decision-making, shaping their futures in profound ways. It raises an important question. Why do we hold on so tightly to these outdated scripts? Perhaps it's simply easier to follow tradition than to embrace blank slates rumored to have boundless potential. In this ever-evolving social landscape, it's crucial to recognize and challenge these imposed roles. Encouraging children to explore interests beyond their gender is vital. Support them in breaking free from these constraints and discovering the kaleidoscope of possibilities available. It can be as simple as choosing toys that ignite their imagination, irrespective of traditional labels. Ultimately, fostering an environment where children are encouraged to express their genuine selves will lead to a richer understanding of humanity. And who doesn't want that? By inviting curiosity and rejecting rigid norms, we create a more inclusive society where everyone, regardless of gender, can thrive. The interplay of nature and nurture. When we dive into the classic nature versus nurture debate, it's a bit like arguing whether a cake is better because of the flour or the frosting. We are walking a fine line between biology and the environment, and honestly, it's more of a dance than a battle. Biological factors include genetics, which is like the cookbook that has all the ingredients lined up for you. Eye color, temperament, even your tendency to binge on chocolate during stressful times. But then there's the environment, which is where things get a lot more interesting. Your upbringing, the culture you grew up in, and even the friends you make along the way add spices to that basic recipe. Imagine a family filled with musicians. It's likely that a kid in that environment will also pick up an instrument. However, if that kid discovers a love for coding instead, well, that's where nurture takes center stage. It's the sweet chaos of life where biology and environment hilariously collide to make us who we are. Looking at real-life examples, the interplay of nature and nurture often feels like a cosmic game of tug-of-war. Take my friend Dave, for instance, who was born into a family of academics. His parents won awards for their scholarly work, so you'd think he'd follow suit, right? Wrong. Despite having the genes for intellectual prowess, Dave developed a passion for skateboarding. He tried to impress his parents by bringing home straight B's. C's were clearly out of the question. But he spent most of his high school years hanging out at the skate park. On the flip side, my cousin Jenna grew up in a household that was anything but studious. Her parents were laid-back, artsy types, but lo and behold, she ended up being a math whiz despite her wallpaper being covered in paint splatters and her pet cat's name being Picasso. In the wild world of humanity, we see people thriving, struggling, and occasionally spinning around in goofy circles trying to figure out who they are. The blend of our inherited traits and our unique experiences turns out to be the ultimate recipe for individuality. So keep an open mind and embrace both your quirks and lineage. They're all pieces of the beautiful puzzle that is you. As you ponder your own nature and nurture story, think about the little influences in your life: a beloved pet, a quirky teacher, or even that smartphone app advising you on your next workout. All these factors blend together, creating the colorful mosaic of who you are and who you might become. It's not about choosing one or the other. It's about seeing the adventure and blending them seamlessly. The next time you see someone doing something totally unexpected, remember, they might just be drawn to it by nature, or perhaps fate plopped them down in that moment of nurture. The world is a giant, intriguing experiment, and you're right in the middle of it. Chapter 2: Evolution's Echo: Why We Think and Act the Way We Do. The Legacy of the Hunter and Gatherer. Understanding our ancestry is like unearthing a buried treasure of personality traits and behaviors. Imagine our hunter-gatherer ancestors roaming the earth, their lives a mixture of ingenuity and sheer survival instinct. These brave souls navigated the challenges of life without the comfort of modern conveniences. Their experiences have a ripple effect on us today, influencing the way we tackle everything from social interactions to decision-making. When I find myself in a crowded cafe, dodging the social nuances of a small-talk minefield, I can almost hear my ancestors whispering, trade, barter, and form alliances. It's how we survived. Ah, the weight of history, pressing down like an overly affectionate aunt during the holidays. We tend to have behaviors rooted deep in our collective past. For instance, the way we navigate social situations often harkens back to tribal gatherings. Just picture it. Back then, we had to figure out quickly who was trustworthy and who might stealthily be plotting a raid on our food reserves. Today, that translates into trusting our instincts when deciding whom to open up to or whom we should cautiously keep at arm's length. Our brains, wired for survival, continue to process social dynamics through this ancient lens, like an outdated motherboard trying to run the latest software. The footprints of those early humans are all over our modern interactions, shaping the very essence of our social lives, even in this digital age of likes and shares. If you ever wondered where our ideas about gender roles hail from, look no further than our hunter-gatherer roots. Back in those rugged times, survival often divided roles along the lines of physical strength and nurturing capacity. Men, with their robust physiques, typically took on the role of hunters, while women, skilled in gathering and nurturing, played a vital role in ensuring the community thrived. This division of labor was essential, much like making sure the pizza toppings are divided equally among friends. Though alas, no such equality was mapped out when it came to gender roles. A practical takeaway: challenge your assumptions and try stepping into roles that defy traditional expectations. Perhaps you're a man who loves cooking or a woman with a knack for fixing things around the house. Embracing these diverse roles not only enriches your life, but also creates a more balanced view of gender in society. The power of instinct: protectors, nurturers, and providers. Instinctive roles like protectors, nurturers, and providers have been passed down through generations, shaping how we view our place in relationships. At one point, these roles were so clear-cut. Dads were the strong, silent types, sitting behind a wall of muscle, ready to fend off any danger, while moms were busy crafting a cozy home with an endless supply of cookies. These roles were about survival, nurturing the next generation while ensuring they were safe from saber-toothed tigers or whatever threats lurked outside the cave. It's quite amusing to realize that even today, remnants of these roles linger in our lives. You might find yourself instinctively shutting the cupboard doors after grabbing a snack, a small, unwavering call to action echoing through your being, as if evolution has programmed you to keep the food safe and sound. It's almost like an ancestral charm you've inherited, dictating your behavior even in the most trivial details. When we step into today's world, those instinctive roles start to play out in ways that can be both comical and enlightening. Think about your own relationships for a second. You might notice a tendency to fall into these roles without even thinking about it. Maybe you have a friend who takes on the protector role, always reminding you to be safe or to avoid that questionable taco stand down the street, while you have another friend whose nurturing nature shines through in their constant supply of emotional support, often accompanied by a side of bad coffee. It happens so naturally that it can become the undercurrent of any relationship dynamics. It's not a rigid structure, but rather a fluid dance where roles shift and change depending on circumstances, context, and yes, even what's for dinner. The punchline is that understanding these roles can seriously uplift the quality of our interactions. If you know you're dating a nurturer, then you begin to appreciate those late-night chats that always smell of herbal tea, even if the flavor is questionable. Delving deeper into our instinctive programming does lead us to consider how it has conditioned our expectations and behaviors in relationships. Imagine you are on a date. The protector in your date makes sure you're comfortable, perhaps even overchecking your drink to make sure your mojito isn't turning into a margarita by mistake. This might make you laugh or even seem a tad excessive. However, understanding this behavior helps you see that it's not about questioning your independence. It's just the instinct kicking in, wanting to create a protective barrier around something they value. And herein lies the witty twist of it all. By identifying and recognizing these patterns, we can communicate more clearly, set healthy boundaries, and even lighten the mood when instinct meets modern sensibility. A simple way to dodge potential misunderstandings is to embrace humor, as it helps recalibrate the vibe while acknowledging that, yes, we all have a protector, nurturer, or provider inside us just waiting to take the stage. Whether it's lovingly poking fun at your partner's quirky behaviors or expressing appreciation for their instincts, embracing this inner theater can lead to richer, more engaging relationship dynamics. From caves to cafes, adapting to modern relationships. Our instincts have come a long way since the days of crouching in dim caves and scrawling on walls. Back then, securing a mate involved more than just swiping right. It required a display of strength, dominance, and sometimes a fearsome bear pelt. Nowadays, my friends, the bear pelt has been replaced by the subtle art of texting, memes, and perhaps a whiff of expensive cologne. It's fascinating to think about how our primal instincts, honed over thousands of years, still lurk beneath our modern disguises of Netflix binges and brunch dates. We still seek connection, validation, and companionship, but how we navigate these needs has evolved dramatically. This evolution isn't just about technology. It's about adapting our age-old instincts to fit a world where the rules are constantly changing. We want love, but we also want it to fit neatly into our busy schedules, along with our love for artisanal coffee. Navigating relationships today feels a bit like trying to assemble IKEA furniture without the manual. Confusing and often frustrating, yet somewhat thrilling. The whirlwind of dating apps, social media, and the art of digital flirting can make anyone feel like they've stepped into an alternate universe. I often find myself chuckling at the irony. In our quest for connection, we've made things so much more complicated. Ghosting, breadcrumbing, and talking stages can leave even the most seasoned relationship experts scratching their heads. However, there's something undeniably amusing about our attempts to define our connections in a fast-paced world. Understanding this landscape requires a fresh mindset. Rather than getting tangled in the web of modern dating complexities, we can embrace the chaos with humor and an open mind. After all, every misstep in love is just another story to tell over drinks with friends. During this journey, it's important to remember that while our communication methods may have changed, the core of relationships, understanding, empathy, and those shared laughs, remains the same. A practical tip? Don't take everything too seriously. Whether you're planning a cozy dinner or an extravagant date, try to keep a sense of humor about it. Embrace the awkward texts, the mispronounced names, and the spontaneous adventures. Relationships are less about perfection and more about connection, even if that connection sometimes involves getting lost on the way to the cafe. Chapter 3. Inside the Male and Female Mind. The male mindset. Focus, logic, and action. Men often approach information like engineers analyzing a blueprint. They tend to compartmentalize, focusing on logic and structure, which makes for a straightforward, if sometimes overly simplified, analysis of problems. Imagine me staring at a car engine, trying to figure out why it won't start. My initial thought is to break everything down into parts. Is it the battery, the spark plugs, or the fuel line? This methodical evaluation allows men to hone in on solutions quickly, but it also means we might miss the bigger picture, like whether or not the tank is actually empty. Men favor facts and logical arguments, often opting for evidence over emotion when making decisions. This isn't to say we lack feelings. Rather, they take a back seat to rationality. If your boyfriend talks about the weather as a critical determining factor for an outdoor event, it's because he's prioritizing tangible elements over how much fun you might have in a beautiful rain shower. The strengths of this male mindset are apparent in situations demanding quick decision-making. For instance, a fire emergency requires swift action based on logical assessments. Men typically thrive in these scenarios, often springing into action, fueled by a sense of purpose. However, this same approach has its pitfalls. The inability to process emotional nuances can lead to misunderstandings. Picture a guy receiving a heartfelt message from his partner about a tough day. His instinct might be to suggest solutions instead of simply offering support, a classic case of trying to fix instead of just listening, which can be amusingly frustrating for others. Moreover, roundabout discussions can feel like taking the scenic route for a man who's determined to get to the most straightforward conclusion, possibly missing out on valuable insights. Embracing our logical tendencies while being aware of their limitations could help men engage more effectively with those around us. Remember, sometimes the best action is not action at all, but taking a moment to connect empathically instead of just mentally. The female mindset: intuition, empathy, and connection. Women often possess a remarkable intuitive nature and emotional awareness that can feel like a superpower. It's as if we're wired to tune into the feelings of others. Whether it's sensing when a friend is upset, picking up on the unspoken tension in a room, or just knowing when it's time to make brownies for no reason, this intuition often guides our actions and decisions. This is not just some mystical fairy tale ability. It's a blend of biological and social factors that shapes our understanding of emotions. Studies show that women are generally more adept at reading emotional cues, thanks in part to societal expectations that encourage empathy and connection. As if we have built-in radars for emotions, we navigate our relationships with a sensitivity that adds depth to our interactions. This emotional awareness and intuition are not just fascinating traits. They help us forge deeper, more meaningful connections with those around us. When we read someone's emotions accurately, it allows us to respond in a way that feels genuine and supportive. Imagine having a chat with someone, and instead of a casual "how's it going?" you dive into a heartfelt conversation about their dreams and fears. That shift from the surface to the core is where real connections happen. This ability to empathize creates a safe space for vulnerability, where both people can share honestly without fear of judgment. It turns out that our intuitive and empathetic natures are vital in helping us form those lasting bonds. Life is a hilarious journey filled with ups and downs, and having someone who truly understands what you're going through, who can connect on that emotional level, makes everything feel a little bit lighter. To harness these traits effectively, try to take a moment to genuinely listen and tune into the emotions happening around you. Being present and showing genuine curiosity about what someone else is feeling can elevate your relationships and create memorable moments. Empathy doesn't require grand gestures. Sometimes, it's simply about acknowledging feelings and being there for someone as they navigate their own path. When minds meet, understanding each other's strengths. Recognizing gender-based strengths can lead to better collaboration and understanding in any relationship. When we take a moment to appreciate how differently men and women often process information and tackle problems, it opens the door to a whole new world of possibilities. Imagine a brainstorming session where someone's analytical mindset meets another's intuitive approach. Instead of a clash of ideas, you have a blending of perspectives that can create something genuinely groundbreaking. Embracing these differences means seeing the value in what each gender brings to the table. Humorously, it's like mixing sweet and salty popcorn. Who knew that the combination could be so addictively delicious? Combining male and female perspectives can enhance partnerships, whether in work, friendships, or personal relationships. One effective strategy is to establish a culture of open communication where everyone feels comfortable sharing their thoughts. It's crucial to create an environment where questions are welcomed and laughter is part of the process. For instance, during discussions, instead of fearing judgment, encourage playful banter around the differing viewpoints. Playfully poking fun at stereotypes can break the ice and lighten the mood. Leaning into our humor humanizes the experience and fosters a sense of unity, reminding us that we're all just trying to navigate this complicated thing called life together. Remember, understanding each other's strengths is not just about accepting differences but celebrating them. One practical tip is to assign roles in a way that plays to each person's strength. If you know someone is great at big-picture thinking while another excels in detail-oriented tasks, let them shine in those areas. Coordinate efforts so that each person can contribute their best self, which not only boosts morale, but also leads to a more harmonious and productive partnership. By doing so, you create an atmosphere where everyone feels valued and appreciated, and trust me, that's a recipe for success. Chapter 4: Decoding the Silent Language. Speaking without words, the science of nonverbal communication. Body language is like an unspoken language that everyone understands, even if they don't realize it. When we talk, our words often tell only part of the story. A raised eyebrow can express surprise, while crossed arms might signal defensiveness or discomfort. I've often found myself in conversations where I've noticed a person nodding while their eyes drift away. That subtle shift in focus can say, "I'm not really engaged," even if they're making all the right sounds. It's fascinating how our bodies are continuously sending messages that can either enhance or contradict our words. For instance, the way we stand, whether it's tall and open or closed and hunched, can reveal a lot about our confidence levels in any given situation. I still chuckle remembering a time at a friend's wedding when I made an awkward toast. My nervous fidgeting and shuffle didn't quite match the celebratory spirit I was trying to convey, and let's just say, the audience's smiles looked a bit strained. It's clear that our physical expressions can change the whole atmosphere of a conversation, making it crucial to be aware of them. Nonverbal cues are the tiny yet powerful signals that we all emit in our everyday exchanges. Imagine you're in a chat with someone, and they lean in closer. That's a nonverbal cue letting you know they are interested, maybe even hanging on your every word. In contrast, if they take a step back, it might indicate they're overwhelmed or wish to distance themselves from the topic. Or maybe they just spotted their ex creeping in the background. I love how these gestures subtly influence how we connect with one another. It creates layers and interactions that words alone can't capture. Eye contact, for example, plays a pivotal role. Too much can feel intense and borderline creepy, while too little can seem evasive or untrustworthy. One time, a conversation with a coworker turned unexpectedly awkward due to my intense gaze, which apparently translated to them as "I'm judging you." Not exactly the kind of vibe I was aiming for. But in all seriousness, mastering these nonverbal cues can significantly enhance how we communicate, making it essential to pay attention, not only to our own gestures, but also to those of others. Being mindful of nonverbal communication can amplify the overall message we convey. A simple smile can lighten a tense discussion, while a nod of agreement can encourage someone to share more deeply. So, the next time you're in a chat, remember that while words are important, what's even more critical is what your body is saying. Often, that's where the real message lies. A quick practical tip: try mirroring the body language of the person you're speaking with. It creates a sense of rapport and makes conversations feel more fluid and engaging. Plus, it's always fun to see how quickly people pick up on that trick. The gender divide in nonverbal signals. As I dive into the interesting world of nonverbal signals, one thing becomes painfully clear. Men and women frequently interpret body language in profoundly different ways. For instance, when a woman crosses her arms, she might be feeling cold or simply comfortable. However, a man could jump to the conclusion that she's upset or defensive. It's like we're playing a never-ending game of charades, with each side misreading the clues. It's as if men and women have been handed different books on body language, and frankly, the translations are lost in the void of "what were you thinking?" The body speaks volumes. A slight nod, a tilt of the head, or even a simple smile can convey more than 1,000 words. Yet, the interpretations can send us down wildly divergent paths. Research suggests that women are generally more attuned to subtle shifts in others' emotional states through body language. We tend to notice nuanced gestures like a fleeting frown or a raised eyebrow that a man might totally overlook. Meanwhile, men often communicate in a more straightforward manner, which can leave women scratching their heads in bewilderment over their apparent emotional simplicity. This fundamental difference sets the stage for countless misinterpretations, often leading us into a labyrinth of confusion. If you've ever been in a conversation where you felt totally lost despite your partner's well-meaning gestures, you're not alone. It's not uncommon for women to read more into a man's lack of eye contact or an awkward shrug, attributing feelings that simply aren't part of the equation. Meanwhile, a man might mistake a woman's concerned expression as criticism rather than caring. Each party walks away from these interactions feeling misunderstood and frustrated, and I can't help but chuckle at the absurdity. It's like watching a romantic comedy unfold in real life, where communication barriers take on a central role in the plot twist. Mastering the unspoken. Enhancing your nonverbal communication skills starts with awareness. I remember a time when I confidently shared my opinion at a gathering, only to realize that my body was flopped over like a deflated balloon. My arms crossed tightly, and I was giving off all the wrong vibes. It was a lesson learned. Posture is key. By standing tall and uncrossing my arms, I felt not only more confident, but also noticed how people responded with increased interest. It's like the subtle dance of communication, where your body leads and your words follow. Eye contact, too, plays a monumental role. I've witnessed the power of a simple gaze that can spark trust or, conversely, create an awkward silence that could rival a cricket's convention. Remember, your face expresses what your mouth might not say. So smile genuinely, furrow your brow only when necessary, and convey warmth. The subtleties are what build the bridge to connection. Building awareness for better connections through silence is where things get intriguingly profound. Silence often speaks louder than words, yet many of us fear it. I once sat in a meeting where silence hung thick, almost unbearable. Then, much to my surprise, I caught on to the fact that people were just letting their thoughts marinate. Embracing silence can open the door to deeper understanding. Instead of filling every pause with chatter, allow yourself and others the space to think. When the conversation lulls, don't jump at the chance to fill it. Instead, wait. You might just learn something valuable that isn't articulated. In those moments of quiet, I've found that the most insightful thoughts often rise to the surface. A shared silence can be a powerful tool, creating a sense of connection that words sometimes fail to achieve. Take a moment to consider how you might use silence and nonverbal cues in your everyday interactions. Perhaps the next time you're meeting with someone, challenge yourself to practice active listening with your full body, nodding, maintaining eye contact, and attentively leaning in. What you'll discover is transformative. As you focus less on what you'll say next and more on what the other person is expressing nonverbally, you might be the one surprised by the richness of that exchange. Communication is a two-way street, and a little bit of silence sprinkled in may just lead to some profound connections. Chapter 5. Why We Talk Past Each Other. The Logic versus Emotion Debate. It's funny how conversations can turn into a game of charades sometimes. Have you ever noticed how men and women might approach the same conversation in distinctly different ways? As a guy, I often find myself diving straight into the facts and missing the emotional nuances. Women, on the other hand, seem to instinctively navigate through feelings, weaving in those emotional threads that add richness to dialogue. I remember a time when discussing a movie with friends. For me, it was all about the plot twists and special effects, while my friend was engrossed in how the characters made her feel. It was as if we were watching two different films. This difference in approach often leads to misunderstandings. I can recall a heated discussion where I offered a solution, considering everything logically, only to be met with the rolling eyes of my female peers, who were looking for empathy instead. They wanted me to acknowledge how the situation was impacting them, not just offer a fix. This stark contrast, men's tendency to steer conversations with logic and women's inclination to navigate through emotions, can create a comedic yet frustrating scene if one party isn't ready to engage in the style of the other. Finding that sweet spot between logic and emotion in a conversation is like walking a tightrope. It's not an easy feat, but it certainly can be rewarding. There's something powerful about acknowledging emotions while still holding on to logical reasoning. Picture this. You're trying to persuade a friend to see things your way, but you notice a furrow in their brow. Not because they disagree with you, but because they feel you're not understanding their concerns. So, along with your rationale, if you sprinkle in a bit of empathy, like acknowledging their feelings, you might just create a more fruitful dialogue. Next time you find yourself in a discussion, consider the other person's perspective. It might help to ask questions that show you care about their emotions. questions that lead to a deeper understanding. The goal isn't just to be heard, but to make the other person feel valued in the conversation. Bridging the gap. Understanding that communication goes beyond mere words can transform how we connect with others. Empathetic communication involves tuning into the emotions behind the words we hear. When someone shares a gripe about their day, it's easy to get caught up in surface-level responses, or to hit them with a well-meaning but perhaps misplaced piece of advice. Instead, what if we took a moment to simply acknowledge their feelings? A simple "that sounds really tough" goes a long way. It opens the door to genuine conversation and validates their experience. During conversations, it's beneficial to practice active listening, where you focus entirely on the speaker. This means resisting the urge to think about your own response while they're talking and instead giving them your full attention. You'd be surprised how rare effective listening is. Sometimes, people just want to feel heard without interruption. Tonality and body language play crucial roles in empathic exchanges. Your facial expressions and gestures can either convey understanding or indifference. Nodding as someone speaks, maintaining an open posture, and mirroring their emotional energy can create a stronger bond. Imagine chatting with a friend over coffee. If they're excited about a new project, matching their enthusiasm with your own spirited tone can elevate the discussion. But if they're down, your softer approach of lowering your voice might just create that comforting space they need. And humor, oh sweet humor, when used appropriately, can lighten tense moments and bond people together. Just make sure it matches the situation. For instance, when talking about frustration at work, a chuckle about the absurdity of office life can lighten the mood, but tread carefully with sarcasm. Not everyone gets your sense of humor. Finding common ground is like being a skilled architect, building bridges between disparate ideas. It requires a willingness to explore mutual interests or shared experiences. Think about it. In any debate or discussion, there's usually some overlap, even if it's buried under layers of disagreement or misunderstanding. When initiating a conversation, try to steer the dialogue towards topics that might resonate with both parties. Ask open-ended questions that encourage in-depth reflections, such as, "What do you enjoy most about your work?" Or "Has there been a time in your life that shaped your views?" These questions can reveal shared experiences or perspectives that may not be immediately obvious. Next time you find yourself in a heated conversation, try to pause for a moment. Breathe in and think about what passionate drive you both share, and leverage it to spark a more constructive dialogue. This small shift in perspective could very well be your secret weapon in achieving more meaningful discussions. The magic of understanding. Empathy is like a secret superpower that can transform ordinary conversations into profound connections. When you truly understand someone's feelings, it allows for a deeper engagement. Imagine stepping into a friend's shoes. Suddenly, you see their world through their eyes. This simple shift can completely change the tone of your communication, making it more genuine and heartfelt. Just the other day, I found myself in a situation where a friend was venting about a frustrating day at work. Instead of just nodding along, I asked how it made her feel. Her whole demeanor shifted. She felt heard, and we went from surface-level small talk to a meaningful exchange. It's fascinating how a sprinkle of empathy can elevate a chat into something truly impactful. Understanding is not just about recognizing emotions, but also about responding in a way that validates them. When you respond with empathy, you open up a beautiful channel for communication. It's like giving someone a warm cup of cocoa on a chilly day. You're not just hearing them out, you're nurturing their spirit. Humor also plays a role here. Sometimes, a lighthearted joke about shared experiences can bridge the gap, reminding us that we are all in this together. This blend of empathy and humor can transform a mundane dialogue into a warmth-filled moment, creating memories rather than just reciting facts. Conflict is often seen as the villain in communication, but understanding flips the script. When tempers flare and disagreements arise, the natural response is to defend our position. However, taking a moment to understand where the other person is coming from can turn a heated debate into a collaborative discussion. Picture an argument with a coworker over a project. Instead of digging in your heels, try asking questions to clarify their perspective. It's like unraveling a ball of yarn. Once you start to untangle the threads of misunderstanding, what emerges is usually more cohesive than what you began with. This transformation isn't about losing and winning. It's about connecting on a deeper level. When we seek to understand instead of contest, we create an environment of trust and collaboration. Just the other day, I was in a minor squabble with a neighbor over a property line. Instead of sharply rebutting his concerns, I listened and shared my view, asking questions along the way. To my surprise, we found mutual ground and even ended up laughing about our misunderstanding. It's remarkable how understanding shifts the energy, making way for connection and even friendship. Next time you find yourself in a conflict, remember to take a breath and extend that olive branch of understanding. You might just turn a disagreement into a delightful conversation and emerge with stronger, more meaningful relationships. Chapter 6: Listening Beyond Words. The gendered approach to listening. Listening is more than just hearing words. It's about understanding the emotions and intentions behind those words. When it comes to gender, research suggests that women often adopt a more empathetic listening approach, while men might be more focused on problem solving. It's not that one style is better than the other, but they can lead to some humorous misunderstandings. Imagine a scenario where a woman shares a frustrating day at work. She might be looking for a sympathetic ear, a nod, and a few "I've been there" comments, while her partner simply jumps in with a list of solutions. It's like bringing a toolbox to a book club. Both might mean well, but they're speaking different languages in the same room. This diverse landscape of listening styles can feel like a dance. One partner moves gracefully to the rhythm of emotions, while the other takes a more structured, step-by-step approach. The dynamic of any relationship can hinge on how well each person listens to the other. Effective listening can build trust and deepen connections, making partners feel seen and heard. When one partner feels dismissed or misunderstood, it can lead to frustration and resentment, turning matters of the heart into a war zone. Picture two friends chatting about their lives. One shares exciting news while the other nods off into daydreams about pizza toppings. That friend might feel a bit neglected, like a solo act waiting in vain for an audience. Understanding this difference in listening styles isn't just about improving communication. It's about enhancing the entire relationship's quality. In a world where we sometimes struggle to genuinely listen to one another, being aware of these differences can be a game changer, giving us tools to bridge the gap, laugh off the misunderstandings, and strengthen our bonds instead. Next time you find yourself in a conversation, try to be mindful of your listening style. Focus on truly engaging with the other person's emotions. You might not need a toolbox, but maybe a cozy couch and a warm cup of tea to create a comfortable space for both listening and talking. Even if you don't always agree, listening can turn a potential clash into a discussion, helping both partners feel valued and understood. Active listening as a superpower. Active listening is more than just nodding your head and saying "aha" at the right moments. It's a skill that transforms communication from a mere exchange of words into an engaging, profound interaction. When you practice active listening, you're demonstrating that you genuinely care about what the other person is saying. It builds trust and deepens relationships by creating a safe space where people feel valued. In a world where everyone seems to be staring at their phones instead of each other, being an active listener is like having a superpower. It makes conversations richer, more fulfilling, and surprisingly enjoyable. Imagine walking into a coffee shop, and instead of the usual small talk, you find yourself unraveling the intricacies of someone's thoughts and feelings. How refreshing can that be? Being an active listener also lets you maintain the charm of the relationship. Picture this: two friends discussing their favorite Netflix series, and one is more focused on scrolling through social media than engaging in the conversation. Suddenly, "Dude, I can't believe that twist," is met with a blank stare instead of excitement. Oops. Relationships require a bit of investment, and nothing shows that you're invested quite like actually paying attention. The more you actively listen, the more you discover layers of meaning, emotion, and insight. It's like peeling an onion, except there's less crying and more understanding. So, you're convinced that you need to up your active listening game. Great. Let's dive into some practical tips that will have you level up your conversations faster than a superhero in a blockbuster movie. First things first, focus completely on the speaker. Put your phone down, close that laptop, and really make eye contact. You might feel a little awkward at first. It's like walking around with a neon sign that says, "I'm really paying attention." But trust me, this simple act can be incredibly disarming. Next, practice the magical art of reflection. This doesn't mean mirroring their every move like a puppy. Instead, summarize what they say and reflect it back to them. For instance, you could say, "So what you're feeling is," it's like giving them a little gift of understanding. And don't underestimate the power of well-timed questions. They show that you're engaged, and your curiosity will lead to deeper discussions. It's amazing how often someone will open up even further when you ask, "What did that mean for you?" This not only reaffirms their worth, but also catapults the conversation into new territories. Finally, remember to be patient and tolerant of pauses. Silence can be intimidating, but often it's when people are processing thoughts and emotions. Instead of filling the air with chatter, sit with the silence for a bit. Give them time to articulate what's really on their mind. Who knew becoming an active listener could be so rewarding? The journey of mastering this superpower can lead to deeper connections, laughter, and sometimes even unexpected life lessons. Grab hold of your new skills and enjoy the new depths your conversations can reach. The art of empathy in conversation. Empathy plays a crucial role in effective communication, serving as the invisible thread that links our thoughts and feelings to those of others. When we engage with someone, we are not just exchanging words. We are sharing experiences and emotions. It's like having a conversation with a friend versus a brick wall. One draws you in, while the other leaves you wondering if you should try yelling louder. The essence of empathy lies in our ability to step outside of our own perspective and into someone else's shoes, which can transform a mundane chat into a deeply meaningful exchange. Imagine you're in a heated discussion with a friend. Instead of focusing solely on your stance, try to really tune in to their feelings. Are they frustrated, confused, or maybe even hurt? Recognizing these emotions allows for a shift in the conversation where listening becomes just as important as speaking. A good listener is like a detective, piecing together clues to uncover the heart of the matter. When you make others feel understood, it not only strengthens relationships, but also paves the way for mutual respect and more fruitful dialogue. Fostering empathy in conversations is an art form, and like any good artist, you need a few tricks up your sleeve. One great technique is called reflective listening, which involves repeating back what the speaker said in your own words. This isn't just about showing off your memory skills. It's about confirming that you really get what they're saying. It's like holding up a mirror. Only this mirror reflects their emotions back, helping them feel heard and valued. It's surprisingly effective, and let's be honest, makes for a much smoother chat. Another method to amplify empathy is to utilize open-ended questions. Instead of asking yes or no questions, dive deeper. How did that make you feel? Or, what do you think about that? Invites the other person to express themselves fully. Think of it as opening a door to a room packed with their thoughts, where you can wander around and explore the treasures inside. When we create a safe space for others to share, we not only nurture empathy, but also strengthen the bond of understanding. Remember, jokes about soup on a first date might not land as well as asking about someone's day, so be the curious spoon that stirs the pot of conversation. Ultimately, developing empathy is about a genuine interest in the experiences of others. By becoming better listeners and asking engaging questions, we can transform the way we connect with those around us. So next time you find yourself in a conversation, remember that empathy is your secret weapon. Just as a chef seasons their dish, you can season your dialogues with understanding, making each interaction a little bit richer. After all, a pinch of empathy goes a long way in creating tasty conversations. Chapter 7. The Needs That Shape Us. What men and women really want. Relationships are a curious thing. They often feel like a puzzle with pieces that just don't seem to fit together. Men and women, despite all our differences, generally seek the same fundamental things: connection, affection, and understanding. But let's face it, we sometimes miss the mark on what drives us. Men are often seen as the strong, stoic types who just want to fix everything. In reality, they crave appreciation and respect. They want a partner who acknowledges their efforts, no matter how small. A simple thank you can mean the world. On the other hand, women tend to be seen as emotional and complex. While that may ring true, what they truly desire is security and empathy. They want someone who will listen and not just nod in agreement while thinking about football. Recognizing these essential drives can significantly bridge the gap in understanding between the sexes. When it comes to connecting, it's all about that common ground. Both men and women want to feel valued and needed. Men often express their desires through actions. They might fix a leaky sink or take out the trash without being asked, thinking, "I'm a great partner." Women, however, may prefer verbal affirmations or quality time spent together. Imagine a couple unwinding after a long day. The man might be content watching TV, while the woman longs for a deep discussion about their dreams and fears. The key here is communication. Understanding that men may not articulate their needs as openly as women can change the dynamic completely. It's essential for both sides to be willing to share what they're feeling, even if it feels uncomfortable at first. After all, it's incredibly rewarding when both people feel like they're meeting each other's needs. One practical tip for anyone navigating this relationship maze is to schedule regular check-ins. Think of it as a relationship tune-up. It can be as simple as asking, "What can I do to make you feel more appreciated?" Or, "Is there something on your mind that we haven't discussed?" These conversations can unveil unspoken desires that can strengthen the bond. A little humor doesn't hurt either. Laughter can be a powerful tool in smoothing over misunderstandings. So, grab that metaphorical toolbox and start fixing the communication leaks in your relationship. You might be surprised at how much closer you'll feel. When needs go unmet. Unmet emotional needs can feel like a riddle wrapped in a mystery inside an enigma. It's one of those things that creeps up on you when you least expect it, often transforming the simplest situations into dramatic crises worthy of a soap opera. Have you ever found yourself feeling inexplicably grumpy or irritable? Welcome to the effects of unmet emotional needs. When I forget to express my need for connection or reassurance, I tend to become the world's worst version of myself, like a bear awakened from hibernation. The consequences are often more than just my mood. They can permeate every aspect of life. Relationships may suffer, work productivity can plummet, and don't even get me started on my poor cats who probably just want to be left alone to bask in their sunbeam. Hence, understanding and recognizing these unmet needs is paramount. They don't just vanish into thin air. They manifest, often in unhealthy ways, from passive-aggressive comments to spirals of anxiety that could make anyone's head spin. Identifying red flags in relationships due to unmet needs is a bit like trying to find a purple elephant in an overcrowded zoo. You know it exists, but spotting it can be tricky. Perhaps your partner consistently forgets your birthday, or maybe they brush off your need for quality time as if it were a pesky fly. These signals, though seemingly small, can indicate deeper issues at play. If I start noticing that my requests for affection are met with an impressive display of deflection, it's time to reevaluate what's happening. A healthy relationship should be a two-way street, not a highway with one car going in circles. It's crucial to monitor how often you find yourself feeling neglected or undervalued. When those moments turn from occasional blips into the norm, that's a major red flag. Consider it as your emotional smoke alarm going off, a reminder that something isn't quite right and needs attention. Emotional needs aren't something to be brushed aside like crumbs from a snack. They require genuine acknowledgement and care. The next time you feel caught in a cycle of unexpressed needs, consider taking a moment to check in with yourself. Ask whether you're voicing your needs clearly, or if you're stuck in a cycle of hoping others will read your mind. Communication is key. Being transparent about what you're feeling can prevent misunderstandings and pave the way for more fulfilling relationships. Remember that it's okay to ask for what you need, whether it's a deeper connection, support during tough times, or just someone to laugh with. After all, thriving in relationships means being brave enough to admit when something is off and communicating that need before it turns into a roaring grizzly. Meeting in the middle. Finding a compromise in a relationship often feels like trying to fold a fitted sheet. You know there's a way to make it work, but it can be a little messy. The first step is to acknowledge that each person has their needs. Understanding what you want and what the other person seeks is like drawing a map before you embark on a journey together. It helps to practice active listening. This isn't just nodding along. It means tuning in, making eye contact, and occasionally saying things like, "I hear you," or "That sounds important." When both partners feel heard, they're more likely to be open to negotiation. Next, letting go of the idea that giving in is a sign of weakness can do wonders. Picture a tug of war where neither side is willing to budge, both getting exhausted without gaining anything. When you approach a disagreement with the mindset that it's not about winning or losing, but about creating something better together, magic happens. You start brainstorming options instead of barricading yourself behind stubborn walls. Sometimes finding a middle ground means being creative. If you both want pizza for dinner, but there's one vegan in the group, what about vegan pizza? Or if one partner wants to see a rom-com while the other prefers an action flick, compromise can happen in the form of hybrid genres. Collaboration in relationships doesn't mean you're forming a committee. although that could be amusing and definitely provide some great moments of silly debate. Instead, it's about finding a shared purpose. When both partners recognize that they are on the same team, it changes the game entirely. Imagine sitting down with your partner, looking over a list of goals or desires, and instead of fighting over them, you start weaving them together like a tapestry. I want to travel, and you need time to work on that project. What if we find a destination where you can work remotely for a bit? It's all about making the pieces fit to create something beautiful rather than forcing them into a box where they just clash. Checking in with each other regularly is another collaborative strategy. It's like being on a road trip and stopping to make sure everyone's still enjoying the ride. Discuss what's working and what's not, and don't be afraid to adjust expectations. And let's not forget the power of humor. Finding something funny about a situation can lighten the mood and encourage openness. When both partners can laugh at the absurdity of life's little challenges, it paves the way for more honest conversations, dismantling barriers that might have seemed insurmountable. This collaboration isn't just about splitting chores or responsibilities. It's a partnership where both individuals wield their strengths to ensure mutual happiness. As you navigate through compromises and collaborations, remember that the goal isn't just to make peace, but to create a relationship where both partners thrive. Next time you face a disagreement, take a moment to reflect on how humor and teamwork can turn friction into a fun journey of shared growth. Chapter 8: Vulnerability, the Hidden Strength. Why men fear vulnerability. Men have been conditioned for ages to be strong, stoic, and always in control. Society has set these invisible but heavy expectations that dictate how a man should act. From childhood, boys are often told to man up when they feel sad or upset, as if expressing emotion is a sign of weakness. This cultural narrative pushes them to build walls around their feelings, creating a fortress of silence. It's as if showing vulnerability would be akin to parading in public wearing a tutu, clashing with the rugged persona that society has painted. You can see the impact of this expectation in everyday life. Men often resort to jokes or sarcasm rather than admit they feel overwhelmed or scared. This defense mechanism is not just a shield. It's a prison, locking away feelings that, if expressed, could lead to deeper connections and understanding. When you finally break through that fortress and let your guard down, the results can be both liberating and frightening. Vulnerability in friendships can act as a double-edged sword. On one side, honest conversations can strengthen bonds between men, creating a foundation of trust that is irreplaceable. A heartfelt talk can even foster the kind of camaraderie you see in buddy cop movies, where the characters are tough yet emotionally available. But on the flip side, there's that nagging fear of judgment or ridicule. Many men find themselves in a bind. They yearn for connection but fear the consequences of being open. This dance of fear and longing can lead to shallow relationships filled with bravado rather than depth. Finding the balance between vulnerability and masculinity is not just a personal journey. It's a collective one that can lead to healthier and more fulfilling male relationships. Encouraging vulnerability doesn't mean discarding traditional masculinity, but rather redefining what it means to be a man. It's reminding each other that it's okay to share fears, anxieties, and insecurities. So, next time you feel the urge to laugh off your emotions, consider taking a moment to express what you're really feeling. You might just find that your friends are hungry for the same authenticity, and together, you can forge deeper, more meaningful connections. The weight women carry. Every day, women navigate a complex web of emotional tasks that often go unnoticed by the outside world. It's not just a matter of keeping a household running or managing schedules. It's about the emotional bandwidth required to support others while often suppressing their feelings. Picture this. I'm in the supermarket, pushing a cart filled with groceries while mentally planning out the week's meals, coordinating everyone's activities, and checking in on friends who are having a rough time. All the while, I'm balancing my own emotional needs like a circus performer juggling flaming torches. The reality is, we have our emotions, worries, and dreams, but there can be a tendency to prioritize everyone else's needs first. This kind of emotional labor can be exhausting and sometimes leaves us feeling more like a caregiver than a person in our own right. Recognizing the emotional labor that women often carry can be like giving yourself a pair of glasses that finally lets you see the world clearly. When we start to acknowledge the invisible load that women manage daily, it encourages a sense of empathy among everyone. Men's understanding of this burden can transform the dynamics in relationships, whether it's at home, in friendships, or even in professional settings. Imagine a partner helping out with household chores not because they were asked, but because they understand the emotional weight of those tasks. It can spark a powerful shift in dynamics, reducing resentment while fostering collaboration. Understanding each other's emotional labor promotes connections that are richer and more authentic, turning mundane responsibilities into shared experiences. So the next time you notice someone who's juggling a bit too much, take a moment to appreciate what you might not see and ask how you can help. Even the simplest gestures can reduce someone else's burdens, and that's a win for everyone involved. Creating a safe space for openness. Encouraging vulnerability in relationships is often like convincing a cat to take a bath. It's a tricky business, but not entirely impossible. The trick lies in understanding that vulnerability is a strength, not a weakness. When I think about the moments I've shared my fears or insecurities, the key was always creating a non-judgmental space. It sounds simple, but it requires practice and a sprinkle of humor. I often joke about my fear of public speaking when I'm in a safe space with friends, which not only lightens the mood, but also shows that it's okay to be candid about our quirks. By sharing, we invite others to do the same. It's like opening a door and saying, "Come on in, the water's fine." It fosters a culture where everyone feels comfortable peeling back the layers, even if it's just a little. We learn to listen without interrupting, validate feelings with genuine empathy, and respond with kindness. These strategies cultivate an environment rich in connection and openness. Building trust as the foundation for open communication requires patience and some hard-won wisdom. Like constructing a house, you wouldn't start with the roof. Trust is the solid foundation beneath. My experiences have taught me that trust is built through honesty and consistency over time. When someone reveals something personal, it's crucial to treat that information like a precious glass sculpture. Handle it gently and keep it safe. I've also found that keeping promises, no matter how small, builds a bridge of reliability. If I say I'll call at 5, I make sure I do, even if it's just to complain about my day. A little humor goes a long way here too. A well-timed joke can lighten serious conversations and remind everyone that talking about tough subjects doesn't have to be a grim affair. Remember, trust isn't created overnight. It's a slow-cooked meal, and sometimes you let it simmer a little longer to achieve its full flavor. The more we practice honesty, vulnerability, and humor, the more we fortify this foundation for open communication. Creating a nurturing space where openness thrives is all about persistence and maintaining a light heart. Embrace the awkward silences and the stumbles along the way. They are part of the journey. Discussing emotions doesn't have to feel like pulling teeth. Instead, think of it as sharing wild stories over coffee. The next time you sense someone hesitating to share, invite them in with warmth, maybe a silly anecdote of your own, and watch the walls come tumbling down. Ask open-ended questions that require more than a yes or no answer, making them think a bit deeper. It's about sparking the conversation where both parties leave feeling lighter. A tip? Try reflecting back what they say in a humorous way. It can turn serious topics into relatable experiences and keeps the lines of communication wide open. Chapter 9: The Empathy Connection. What empathy really means. Empathy is the ability to understand and share the feelings of another person. Imagine, for a moment, that you're walking in someone else's shoes. Not literally, of course, unless you enjoy a good pair of stinky sneakers. When we empathize, we tune in to not only what others are saying, but also to what they're feeling, often without needing them to spell it out for us. This kind of emotional connection plays a crucial role in building relationships because it helps to validate people's experiences. When someone pours their heart out, feeling misunderstood or alone, an empathetic response can be like a warm cup of coffee on a chilly morning. It just shows warmth and understanding that people crave. By practicing empathy, we can strengthen bonds, enhance communication, and foster a sense of community, creating a supportive atmosphere where everyone feels heard and valued. Now, let's pivot to sympathy. While empathy is about stepping into someone's emotional realm, sympathy tends to hang out on the porch, nodding in acknowledgement, but not really going in. You know the difference. When a friend recounts a tough time, an empathetic response might involve you sharing in their sadness, while a sympathetic response might manifest as, "Oh, that's too bad," before you quietly shuffle away with a metaphorical snack. There's nothing inherently wrong with sympathy. It has its place like ice cream on a hot day, but sometimes it just doesn't fill you up like the homemade lasagna of empathy does. Empathy encourages us to connect deeply and understand nuanced feelings, while sympathy tends to create a little distance. When we take the time to practice empathy rather than defaulting to sympathy, we not only enrich our relationships, but also improve our own understanding of the human experience. Next time you find yourself in a conversation where someone is sharing their struggles, try to respond with empathy. Instead of jumping straight to advice or sympathy, pause, breathe, and listen. Really listen. You might be surprised at how much deeper your connection becomes. When empathy drains you, emotional labor is a sneaky thief, slowly stealing your energy and zest for life while you're busy being the caring beacon for others. It's that intense mental workout you didn't sign up for when you decided to be an empathetic human being. You know, the kind where you feel the weight of the world on your shoulders after listening to just one friend recount their episodic misadventures. Or worse, any sentimental video that leaves you teary-eyed. There's a constant push and pull between feeling compassion and then feeling completely drained, because let's face it, empathy can be exhausting. It's like going for a jog at a sprinting pace while wearing emotional weights. You might be helping someone, but deep down, you're gasping for breath, wishing they'd just let you sit down with a snack for a minute. Identifying when empathy becomes overwhelming can feel like trying to identify that odd smell in the fridge. Hard and somewhat unpleasant. You might notice that every time you engage with these heavy emotions, there's a part of you that feels like a balloon slowly deflating, losing its buoyancy with each sad story you absorb. You find yourself getting irritable over trivial things or completely zoning out during conversations because, frankly, you can't take on one more soul's burdens without having your own mental meltdown. It's essential to listen to these signs. They are your mind's way of shouting, "Hey, you've reached the empathy limit." Recognizing when you need a break is a critical skill. This means giving yourself grace, finding the balance between being there for others and ensuring you preserve enough energy for yourself. Here's a handy tip that feels like adding marshmallows to a hot cocoa. Make time for yourself and engage in activities that recharge your spirit. Whether it's zoning out with a binge-worthy show or spending an afternoon doodling, the crucial thing is to prioritize your mental energy. Empathy can be a beautiful trait, but remember, you can't pour from an empty cup. Finding ways to refill your cup will not only help you in your relationships with others, but also keep your own sparkle intact. So, go ahead and be the empathetic superstar, but don't forget to hit that emotional pause button every now and then. Walking in their shoes. Practicing empathy often feels like trying to fold a fitted sheet, complicated and a bit awkward, but ultimately rewarding if you stick with it. One effective technique is to really listen when someone speaks. This means putting your own thoughts and reactions on hold and focusing entirely on their words. I remember a conversation where my friend vented about a tough day at work. Instead of jumping in with my own stories, I asked open-ended questions and nodded along, which helped her feel heard and valued. It's amazing how just giving someone your full attention can transform the dynamic. Another strategy is to use reflective listening. This involves rephrasing what the other person has said to show you're engaged and understand their perspective. For example, after my partner explained a stressful issue he was facing, I responded, "It sounds like you're feeling overwhelmed because of those deadlines." He smiled, relieved that I was tuned into his experience. Small adjustments in the way we communicate can help bridge the gap between our perspectives. Understanding another's perspective can feel like removing a pair of constricting shoes you've worn all day. When you finally step into their shoes, everything suddenly shifts. Suddenly, your judgments seem silly, and your own problems shrink a little. I recall a time when I had a disagreement with a coworker. Instead of jumping in defensively, I took a moment to consider the stressors she was facing at home. By understanding her context, I realized our clash wasn't personal, but rather a reflection of her circumstances. This revelation changed how I approached our relationship. When we embrace another's viewpoint, everything from conflict resolution to building stronger relationships becomes easier. It's about recognizing that everyone has their own battles, stories, and backgrounds that shape their reactions. By relating to others in this way, we often find common ground, and laughter can even bubble up as we share these human experiences. So, if you ever find yourself stuck in a misunderstanding, try stepping back, reflecting, and asking yourself, what might they be going through? It could just be the key to moving forward together. Always remember that empathy isn't just a feel-good word, it's a practical tool. Keep a mental catalog of situations where you practiced empathy successfully. The next time you're in a bind, revisit those moments. You might just find that stepping into someone else's shoes is the most comfortable and enlightening choice you can make. Chapter 10. The Love Languages Reimagined. Beyond words and gifts. We often think of love as something tangible, something we can hold in our hands or see with our eyes. But love is complex, multidimensional, and sometimes elusive, much like trying to capture a breeze in a jar. I've found that understanding love languages can be a game changer in how we connect with others. Picture this: two people in a relationship, each expressing affection in their own unique language. One partner might shower the other with gifts, believing that shiny objects equal love, while the other yearns for long, meaningful conversations that stir the soul. The frustration builds when both are left wondering why their attempts at love don't seem to resonate. Exploring these love languages reveals the nuances of our emotional wiring, showing that just as we each have our own fingerprints, we also have our own ways of loving. It's like tuning into a radio station. If you're on the wrong frequency, all you hear is static instead of a melodious symphony. Love, at its core, is about connection and understanding, not just the exchange of things. While a bouquet of flowers or a fancy dinner can be a nice gesture, they shouldn't be the sum total of our emotional connections. It's the tender glance across a crowded room, the shared laughter over inside jokes, and the comforting silence during tough times that truly embody love. I've learned that showing appreciation through acts of kindness or words of affirmation can sometimes touch a heart in ways that any material gift never could. Imagine surprising a friend with a heartfelt note just because, or checking in on someone, not for a reason but simply because you care. As I navigated through relationships, I discovered that the most cherished moments often had nothing to do with expensive gifts. They were the spontaneous road trips, shared secrets under starlit skies, and the times we just sat in comfortable silence, perfectly content in each other's company. These experiences are what shape us and weave the fabric of our most treasured relationships. Recognizing these differences can enhance any relationship you have. Start by paying attention to how you communicate love and how those you care about express it. A simple shift in perspective can turn misunderstandings into meaningful moments that warm the heart. Learning your partner's language. To better understand your partner's love language, start by paying close attention to how they express their affection. Notice what they seem to appreciate the most when you interact. For instance, if your partner lights up when you compliment them, words of affirmation might be their preferred love language. Keep an eye out for their reactions, as these can provide vital clues. Sometimes they might express appreciation for things you wouldn't even think about, like spending time together or surprises you plan. It's like being a detective on a romantic quest, and trust me, it's much more fun than it sounds. Another angle to consider is to simply ask them. Create a relaxed atmosphere where both of you can openly discuss what makes you feel loved. This could be over dinner or during a cozy movie night. Use humor to ease into the conversation. After all, no one wants to feel like they are on an emotional interrogation. You might say something like, "If you could only choose one way to feel loved for the rest of your life, would it be words, gifts, acts of service, time, or physical touch?" This can spark an engaging discussion that reveals a lot about their preferences. Integrating love languages into your daily routine can transform your relationship dynamics. Start small. If you've identified that your partner's love language is acts of service, try doing little things for them, like making coffee in the morning or taking out the trash before they ask. These acts often speak volumes without needing a grand gesture. You'll be surprised how these little things show you care in ways that resonate deeply. On the flip side, don't forget to express your own love language too. It's a two-way street. Share the things that make you feel loved and appreciated. If you thrive on physical touch, let your partner know you enjoy hugs or playful touches throughout the day. They might not realize that a tap on the shoulder or a brief squeeze of the hand can brighten your day. The more both of you can practice speaking each other's languages, the deeper your bond can grow. Think of it as a quirky game where you learn to communicate in each other's love dialects, leading to a more harmonious relationship. As a useful tip, keep a mental note of special occasions and remember to incorporate those love languages into your celebrations. Be it birthdays or anniversaries, infusing the cherished love languages into these moments will make them unforgettable. The transformative power of love. Understanding love languages can feel like stumbling upon a hidden treasure chest filled with gems just waiting to be discovered. There's something magical about realizing that expressing love can take many forms, from words of affirmation to acts of service, and each of us tends to speak a different dialect in this beautiful language. It's quite hilarious when you think about it. Two people trying to communicate their love, but getting it all wrong because one is pouring out compliments while the other is just trying to fix a leaky faucet. Once you start recognizing your partner's love language, it's like flipping a switch on a lampshade that's been obscured. Suddenly, everything is bathed in light, making it easier to truly connect and rekindle that passion that might have dimmed over time. Imagine, for instance, if your partner's love language is physical touch and yours is quality time. You might find yourselves in a tangled web of misunderstandings, each one wondering why the other seems so oblivious to their efforts at love. It's crucial to have those humorous aha moments where you realize, oh, so that's why you keep holding my hand in public. You're actually trying to communicate affection. Recognizing these love languages not only deepens your emotional connection, but also leads to truly funny and charming revelations that strengthen the bond between couples. The simple act of learning to speak your partner's love language transforms interactions and can breathe fresh air into even the most ordinary days. Differences in love languages often add texture to our relationships, like the various spices in a well-curated dish. It's rather amusing how stark contrasts can actually complement each other. For instance, a partner who loves showering with gifts can be paired with one who thrives on shared experiences. Together, they create a unique recipe for love that showcases both their differences and their affection. Imagine being in a relationship where one partner gets giddy over surprise dinners, while the other celebrates the mundane with a heartfelt text after a long day. Each act of love, guided by different languages, adds a layer of depth that enriches the relationship. These delightful discrepancies are markers of personal growth, understanding, and yes, infinite opportunities for laughter. When you find yourself amid these moments of glaring differences in love languages, don't shy away from sharing a laugh about it. Jokingly ask if they'd prefer their love served in a shiny box or a long, deep conversation on the couch. The laughter you share can foster mutual understanding, transforming every challenge into a stepping stone toward a deeper connection. No matter how different you are, love's ability to unite can create an enriched experience like no other. Chapter 11: Turning Conflict into Connection. Why we fight. Conflicts in relationships often spring from deep-rooted issues that sometimes even elude our awareness. It's like an iceberg, where only a fraction of the real problem is visible above water while the bulk of it lies hidden beneath. Take, for instance, those recurring debates over whose turn it is to take out the trash. At first glance, it seems trivial, but beneath this mundane squabble could lie a wealth of unresolved frustrations, unmet expectations, or the simple desire for recognition. Maybe, just maybe, one partner feels their efforts go unnoticed, leading to a passive-aggressive showdown over household chores. Who knew that taking out the trash could have so many layers? Learning to identify these root causes is crucial. It requires us to peel back those layers thoughtfully, often leading to laughter when we realize just how absurd our arguments can become when viewed from a distance. Disputes often create a cycle that can feel impossible to escape. Think of it like a dysfunctional merry-go-round that just keeps spinning faster and faster. One person says something that hits a nerve, and in response, another person retaliates. Before you know it, you're both caught up in a whirlwind of reactions, complaints, and accusations, all making it tougher to find a common ground. It's almost like playing verbal ping pong where the balls just keep getting heavier and spikier. Recognizing this cycle means you can choose to step off the ride. It's about catching yourself mid-argument when you start to feel that familiar mix of indignation and irritation. And just as you might take a break when the merry-go-round makes you nauseous, taking a moment to breathe and reflect can help shift the conversation towards something more constructive. A little humor never hurts either. Sometimes just calling out the absurdity of the situation can diffuse tensions quicker than you think. Finding common ground. When conflicts arise, it's often like stepping into a boxing ring without realizing you've signed up for a heavyweight match. Emotions run high and communication can break down faster than a cheap tent in a rainstorm. So, how do we find common ground when every conversation feels like we're one sarcastic comment away from a full-blown showdown? First, we need to become detectives of our conversations. searching for those hidden gems of shared interests buried beneath the layers of disagreement. It's about asking open-ended questions, not the yes or no kind, but the ones that encourage others to share their thoughts and feelings. What do you value most in this situation? Or can you share what's important to you? Can often lead us to realize we're not as different as we think. Active listening is the superhero in this scenario. It's not just about nodding your head while plotting your next argument. It's about genuinely engaging with what the other person is saying. Picture yourself stepping into their shoes for a moment. After all, humor can sometimes lighten the mood. Like a comedian finding common threads in different experiences. When you can relate to someone else's struggles, you create a bridge instead of a chasm. Keep the conversation light, even if the subject isn't. A sprinkle of humor can diffuse tension and open pathways to understanding. Remember, when we focus on what makes us alike rather than what drives us apart, we might just uncover a treasure trove of possibilities for resolution. Once we shine a light on our shared interests, we can wield them like the ultimate negotiation tool. Commonalities don't just warm hearts. They're the connecting tissue that binds our solutions. When faced with a disagreement, consider approaching it like you're crafting a team project. What are the strengths each party brings to the table? Perhaps you both have the same goals buried under your varying approaches, or maybe you both share a dislike for something that can be leveraged to move discussions forward. This can spark creativity in finding solutions that satisfy both parties. Use those commonalities as stepping stones. When you build on shared values, you can tackle the specific issues tearing you apart with a united front. To put this into practice, think of it as a game of what if. Let your imagination run wild with scenarios where both sides win. Discussing future possibilities doesn't just make the conversation forward-thinking, it also makes it more pleasant. Challenges seem less daunting when they're handled as a team. So, throw in a bit of fun, propose silly solutions just to get the ball rolling. Sometimes the best ideas come from the wildest suggestions. The key takeaway here is to remember that every conflict is an opportunity wrapped in a tough outer shell. If you can peel that away, you're left with the rich, gooey center of shared interests and potential resolutions. And who doesn't love a little gooey goodness? Conflict as a catalyst for growth. Conflict often gets a bad rap. When we hear the word, our minds may jump to images of shouting matches or tense family dinners. But what if I told you that conflict could actually be a stepping stone to personal growth? Every disagreement presents an opportunity. Just think about it. When things get heated, we're forced to examine our beliefs and values. Maybe we hold on to a particular opinion with the fierceness of a dog with a bone because it strokes our egos, but a little conflict can strip us down to the essentials and force us to ask, why do I really believe this? That's where the magic happens. It's in that uncomfortable zone where we can take a good hard look at ourselves, reflect, and come out with a new understanding, like a butterfly breaking free from a chrysalis, albeit a slightly cranky one. This process of questioning and reflection is vital, taking us from autopilot through life to living it with intention and clarity. Disagreement can be thought of as the spice of relationships. Nobody ever dug into a plain bowl of oatmeal and said, "Wow, what a flavorful experience." Instead, we relish complexity, be it in food or in our interactions with others. When someone shows up with a different point of view, it's like adding a dash of salt. Suddenly, everything has more depth. Embracing disagreement means understanding that those moments of friction can act like sandpaper, smoothing the rough edges of our beliefs and teaching us empathy. Often, we may find ourselves standing on opposite sides of a debate, but instead of allowing that to create a divide, we can lean into the discomfort. Ask questions. Share stories. By embracing differing viewpoints, we unlock new perspectives and, let's be honest, sometimes we even learn new things about ourselves. Plus, who doesn't love a good story about the awkwardness of spirited debate? It becomes a shared memory, a funny tale in the narrative of our relationships. When you find yourself in a conflict, remember that it's not just about winning an argument. Rather, try to see it as an exciting opportunity for exploration. This mindset won't necessarily resolve the disagreement instantly, but it can lay the groundwork for genuine understanding and respect, which are the real prizes. Next time things get a little tense, channel your inner philosopher. Ask more questions instead of throwing out accusations. You might be amazed at how much richer your understanding of your partner, or yourself, will become. Chapter 12. The Balance of Independence and Togetherness. When Space Strengthens Love. Individuality is the spice of life, especially in relationships. When you bring your own unique quirks, interests, and passions into a partnership, it creates a rich tapestry rather than a monotonous blanket. Think about it. If we were all the same, wouldn't conversations get pretty dull? Imagine telling your partner about your day, and they just nod blankly because they've never even experienced the thrill of getting stuck in a traffic jam or the horror of a surprise zucchini in the vegetable drawer. The truth is, when you maintain your individuality, you not only keep things interesting, but you also grow as a person, which only enhances the relationship. Time apart serves as a wonderful counterbalance. Consider the joy of reuniting after a little me time. That delightful spark when you see each other again can be like the first burst of flavor in an unexpectedly delightful dish. It's those moments apart that allow you both to miss one another, to engage your imagination about what your partner has been up to. Did they find someone new? Someone interesting? Or did they finally find where all the missing socks go? This anticipation fuels connection. By having experiences separate from each other, you're filling the pot of shared stories, while simultaneously giving one another room to breathe. It's the perfect blend of being your own person while being part of a loving partnership. In relationships, creating space for individuality doesn't mean you'll drift apart. Instead, it allows each person to evolve on their own while keeping the bond vibrant. Humor often emerges from our differences as well. Who doesn't love a playful debate about whether pineapple belongs on pizza? That playful banter solidifies your connection. Embrace those moments and remember, sometimes stepping away is the best way to step back together. Aim for a balance of time spent apart and together, and you might just find that love thrives in the spaces you create. The trap of codependency. Codependency often sneaks into our lives like a mischievous raccoon rummaging through your trash. You know it's not good for you, but you can't help but find it oddly fascinating. One of the classic signs of a codependent relationship is the overwhelming need to please the other person to the point where your own needs are left to wither away like an unattended houseplant. If you find yourself constantly checking in on how your partner is feeling, ready to offer support at the drop of a hat, or feeling responsible for their emotions, it's time to take a step back. You might be stuck in a web of codependency, where your happiness hinges on their approval and moods. It's kind of like being on a roller coaster, except the only one enjoying the ride is your partner, while you're just over there nervously checking safety harnesses and hoping for a miracle. Another sure signal is feeling anxious or distressed when your partner isn't around or isn't happy. When your entire emotional state becomes dependent on another person's happiness, it's like handing over the remote control of your life. This anxious attachment can manifest in various ways. You start to lose sight of who you are as an individual, morphing into a shadow of your partner's needs and desires. When you realize that your self-worth is tied to the state of the relationship, it's like throwing your identity into a blender. You end up with a confusing smoothie of uncertainty and resentment. Pay attention to patterns in conflict, too. If you find yourself engaging in constant rescuing behavior or feeling guilty for wanting to be cared for yourself, recognize that these are red flags waving frantically in your face. Breaking free from the chains of codependency can feel like attempting to untangle a ball of yarn while your cat is enthusiastically participating in the chaos. It's a process, but one well worth the effort. First off, reclaiming your individuality is crucial. Take time for yourself to rediscover your hobbies, passions, and those quirky interests you inexplicably abandoned for the sake of US. This could mean opting for a spontaneous paint night with friends, diving into that engrossing book you've neglected, or just indulging in the luxurious act of doing absolutely nothing. The key is to remember that your happiness and identity exist beyond the relationship dynamic. Another powerful strategy is to set and maintain boundaries. Think of boundaries as the velvet rope at an exclusive event. It's there to protect your space. Communicating clearly about what you need from the relationship is part of this process. It can be scary to express your thoughts, like standing on stage for the first time while your knees are shaking, but it's essential for fostering a healthier atmosphere. You might need to embrace some uncomfortable conversations, but they can lead to breakthroughs that benefit both you and your partner. Also, seeking support from a therapist or a trusted friend can provide an invaluable outside perspective and gentle nudges in the direction of healthier behavior. At the end of the day, breaking out of codependency is about rediscovering the balance between love for another and love for yourself. Try this. Every day, write down one thing you love about yourself and one thing you want to do for you. These small reminders can slowly help cultivate the self-love that is essential for changing unhealthy dynamic patterns. Growing together. Every relationship thrives on the balance between supporting each other's dreams and nurturing our own aspirations. As I've navigated through the highs and lows of partnerships, I've learned that growth is often a two-way street. It's crucial to celebrate not just your own achievements, but also those of your partner, even if their speed of progress sometimes seems like it's in slow motion compared to yours. As we share our goals and ambitions, we create an environment rich in encouragement, but it requires an active effort to keep our attention on both paths. Picture this. You're excitedly discussing your new yoga routine, stretching into a downward dog, and then you catch your partner enthusiastically explaining their ideas for a promotion at work. Instead of zoning out, imagine engaging fully by asking questions that matter to them. This creates a fertile ground for co-growth. The laughter that rolls in when we share our little hurdles, like facing a particularly challenging downward dog or mispronouncing corporate during an important meeting, can be the glue that holds us closer together. Mutual growth not only enhances our bond, but infuses our lives with a delightful sprinkle of humor. Finding the sweet balance between independence and intimacy can feel a bit like walking a tightrope. One wrong move and you might tumble into an abyss of clinginess or isolation. There's no rule book. It often comes down to instinct and a healthy dose of communication. One of my favorite approaches is to cultivate a partnership where we can be secure in our individuality while being deeply connected. I often joke that pursuing separate hobbies is like having mini vacations from each other that keep the relationship fresh. When I pick up my paintbrush or my partner dives into a marathon of documentaries without me, it's not abandonment, it's refreshing freedom. Yet, we always circle back to share what we've learned. Those little moments of personal exploration feed our conversations and allow for deeper intimacy. If I've discovered a new painting technique that involves more splatter than I had intended, you can bet my partner will enjoy a good laugh and may even want to try it themselves. The key: understanding that independence doesn't dilute intimacy. Rather, it enhances it, allowing for rich dialogues filled with stories, laughter, and most importantly, learning from each other. Whether you're fostering mutual growth or balancing independence with intimacy, remember to approach these dynamics with a blend of empathy and humor. Life is a shared journey, and it's those quirks and funny learning experiences along the way that make your relationship truly special. Embrace growth together, and don't shy away from a good laugh when things don't go as planned. There's beauty in the chaos. Chapter 13. Embracing intimacy in all its forms. Physical, emotional, and intellectual intimacy. Intimacy in relationships comes in various flavors, and understanding these different types can add depth and color to our connections. Physical intimacy is the most straightforward. It involves touch, closeness, and affection like holding hands, hugging, or some steamy moments that can lead to more. It's that electrifying spark that can make even the most mundane day feel special. Emotional intimacy, on the other hand, dives deeper. It's that warm, fuzzy feeling we get when we share our thoughts, fears, and dreams with someone we trust. You know, those late-night conversations where you laugh, cry, and pour out your soul over ice cream while binge-watching your favorite show. Lastly, there's intellectual intimacy, which is all about sharing your ideas, beliefs, and interests. This is where two people can engage in lively debates or bonding over a shared love of quantum physics, even if you're a poet and they're an engineer. Each type of intimacy plays its own crucial role in building a healthy, thriving relationship. Every form of intimacy lays a foundation of trust between partners. Physical intimacy can convey safety and affection, allowing individuals to feel secure in their relationship. A comforting touch or a gentle embrace can say what words sometimes cannot. Emotional intimacy fosters vulnerability, creating a safe space where partners can express their inner thoughts without fear of judgment. When one person opens up about their day, their struggles, or their wild ambitions, it encourages the other to do the same. This back and forth sharing builds a bridge of trust that can withstand storms. Intellectual intimacy nurtures respect and admiration for each other's minds. When you can appreciate and challenge each other's thoughts, you create a partnership based on mutual growth. Arguments can lead to breakthroughs rather than breakups, and that's where the magic happens. Each type of intimacy not only promotes closeness, but also strengthens the trust that is the bedrock of any healthy relationship. Remember that all relationships require effort to cultivate these different types of intimacy. It's not always easy, and sometimes it can be downright awkward, especially if you're both trying to open up in your preferred areas of vulnerability. Don't shy away from the uncomfortable moments. They often lead to the deepest connections. Inject humor into your conversations. Stay curious about each other's thoughts, and don't forget the importance of those little physical gestures of affection. Whether it's a playful nudge, a shared laugh, or a deep discussion over coffee, these moments will create a rich tapestry of intimacy that binds you together. Make it a point to check in with each other regularly, and you might just find your relationship blooming in ways you never imagined. The barriers to true intimacy. True intimacy feels like trying to find your way through a maze while blindfolded, doesn't it? It's not just about cuddling on the couch or sharing pizza. It's about peeling back the layers of our armor. Often, we don't even realize how many barriers we've built up. There's a tendency to keep our guard up, thinking that vulnerability is a sign of weakness. Yet, it's one of the biggest obstacles to real connection. When was the last time you laid your heart bare without the fear of judgment? Most of us shy away from opening up, hiding behind a wall of sarcasm or a facade of aloofness. The truth is, admitting our fears and insecurities might feel like standing in front of a firing squad, but that honesty is what leads us towards deeper connections. When I think of vulnerability, I can't help but chuckle at how it's often portrayed in movies. We see the heart-wrenching romantic confessions, but in real life, true vulnerability is just as messy. Think of trying to assemble IKEA furniture without the instructions. It's awkward, confusing, and can leave you with a few extra screws and a sense of uncertainty about whether you completed the project correctly. Yet, it's essential. When we choose to show our true selves, scars and all, we invite others to do the same. Sharing a goofy secret or admitting our weird quirks creates a bond that can weather any storm. Those little moments where we let our true selves shine through are what really solidify our connections. So why not take off that armor, however slightly, and watch how the walls start to come down? It's like a trust fall, but way less scary, and hopefully without the bruises. The key takeaway here is simple. For intimacy to flourish, we often need to embrace discomfort. By recognizing our barriers and allowing ourselves to be vulnerable, we create a safe space for others to connect deeply with us. Remember, it's not about perfection, it's about authenticity. So, the next time you feel the urge to slip into your comfort zone, take a leap instead. Share something silly, something real, and see how it transforms your relationships. Genuine connection is just on the other side of that leap. Creating lasting bonds. Strategies for cultivating enduring emotional connections begin with the understanding that relationships are like plants. They need nurturing and care to grow. One effective approach is to engage in meaningful conversations. It's not just about the exchange of words, but about really listening and responding with empathy. When I share a funny story from my childhood and my friend does the same, it's like we're planting seeds of trust and understanding. Humor also plays a vital role here. Laughter can break down barriers and create lasting memories. A shared chuckle over a silly mishap can transform a casual relationship into a profound connection. Celebrating milestones and shared experiences is where the magic truly happens. Remember that time we accidentally booked our vacation in the off-season and ended up frolicking on a nearly deserted beach? That became our annual ritual, a highlight of our friendship. These moments, whether they are big achievements or small victories, create a tapestry of shared history. When we commemorate these occasions, like celebrating a promotion with a goofy dance party in the living room, we reinforce our bonds. It's essential to acknowledge both the high points and the challenges we navigate together. Each challenge shared only solidifies our connection, creating a bond that can withstand the test of time. Building these connections requires intentionality and effort, but the rewards are well worth it. A practical tip is to set aside regular time for your loved ones, whether it's a weekly coffee date or a monthly game night. It might feel like just another item on your to-do list at first, but soon it becomes a cherished ritual that adds joy and vibrancy to your life. Chapter 14, Gratitude and Connection. Why gratitude matters. Gratitude is like a mental booster shot, giving our minds a little lift that can lead to a lot of positive changes in our lives. When we take a moment to appreciate what we have, whether it's a steaming cup of coffee on a Monday morning or that one friend who always remembers our birthday, we actually trigger our brain to release those feel-good chemicals. It's like a mini celebration each time we acknowledge the good stuff, big or small. Psychologists have found that practicing gratitude can reduce feelings of anxiety and depression. Instead of fixating on what we lack, gratitude helps us shift our focus to the abundance already present in our lives. This doesn't mean we're living in a fantasy land or ignoring life's challenges. It simply allows us to build a mental buffer against negativity. Each thankful thought can create pathways in our brains that make us more resilient and optimistic. When we express gratitude towards others, it acts like glue for our relationships. Imagine telling your best friend how much you appreciate them for always being there to listen, even when you just drone on about your latest Netflix obsession. That thankfulness not only warms the cockles of their heart, but also deepens your connection. Research shows that expressing gratitude can enhance feelings of trust and satisfaction in friendships, romantic relationships, and even at work. The funny thing is, gratitude is also contagious. When you recognize someone else's kindness, it inspires them to pass on the gratitude, fostering a cycle of appreciation that strengthens the emotional fabric of your relationships. So, whether it's a heartfelt thank you note or simply acknowledging someone's hard work, practicing gratitude creates ripples that can fortify bonds and enrich lives. To start benefiting from gratitude today, consider keeping a simple journal where you jot down 3 things you're thankful for each evening. This not only helps to keep your mindset focused on the positives, but also makes those little sparks of joy more pronounced in your daily life. Who knows? By the end of the week, you might be amazed at how much lighter you feel. Expressing gratitude effectively. Expressing gratitude is like giving a gift that doesn't require wrapping paper or a card. It can be done in so many ways that sometimes it feels overwhelming. One solid strategy I've found to be effective is personalizing your message. When I want to thank someone, I think about what that person loves or values most and incorporate those elements into my expression of gratitude. If the person loves coffee, mention that lovely cappuccino you shared and how much it meant to you. It becomes a trip down memory lane, reminding them why your bond matters. Another approach is to articulate not just what you are grateful for, but also why it's significant to you. For example, let's say your friend always helps you when you're in a jam. Instead of just saying thanks, dive deeper. You might say, I really appreciate how you supported me during my project. Your encouragement not only helped me finish it on time, but it also kept my spirits high. By doing this, you not only express gratitude, but also reinforce the positive behavior, making them likely to repeat it. The right timing can amplify the effect of your gratitude. Picture this. You just received delightful help from a colleague on a project. Waiting until the annual company dinner to thank them might feel a tad too delayed. Instead, seizing that moment in the office, when the warmth of teamwork's still fresh in the air, turns a simple thank you into a heartfelt acknowledgement that will resonate much deeper. It's more authentic, immediate, and encourages a culture of appreciation. The context also plays a pivotal role. Imagine you want to express your appreciation to a friend during a serious conversation. Introducing gratitude here isn't just a nice touch, it's a powerful way to lighten the mood. You can say something like, by the way, I really appreciate how you always know just what to say. I wouldn't have gotten through this without your sense of humor. This way, gratitude gets beautifully woven into the fabric of your conversation, giving it depth and dimension. If you want to make your gratitude a regular part of your routine, try coupling it with a habit you already have, like a gratitude journal, for example. Every night, jot down 1 thing you're grateful for, and eventually, give yourself the challenge of reaching out to that person and expressing your gratitude verbally. This not only reinforces positive feelings, but strengthens relationships, creating a ripple of kindness in a world that could always use more. A daily practice of love. Gratitude has a sneaky way of making your day brighter, and incorporating it into your everyday interactions is easier than you might think. Picture this. You stroll into work, and instead of the usual head nod hello to your colleagues, you take a moment to express genuine gratitude. A simple, thank you for always having my back, can ignite a spark of happy confusion followed by a smile. It transforms the mundane routine into a moment of connection. Imagine catching the barista's eye and saying, I appreciate the way you make my coffee just right every morning. This kind of acknowledgement doesn't just uplift your spirits. It often creates a ripple effect as others start practicing gratitude themselves. Your small act of appreciation not only enhances your mood, but deepens your relationships, proving that a little sincerity can go a long way. Humor can be a delightful companion on this gratitude journey. Think of how often we take ourselves too seriously. Instead of a dry thank you, you could say something cheeky like, "You're my coffee hero, saving me from morning zombie mode." This not only adds a giggle to the exchange, but also makes the person feel like a superhero, even if they're just brewing your usual cup. When gratitude becomes a natural part of your dialogue, it invites others to join in the fun. You'll find that your interactions become more joyful and less transactional, transforming how you connect with the world around you. Establishing a culture of appreciation in your relationships is akin to nurturing a garden. It requires attention, patience, and a sprinkle of humor. Each compliment, each thank you is like a seed planted. As they grow, you create an environment rich in positivity and understanding. Start by noticing the little things your loved ones do. Perhaps your partner made dinner without being asked, or your friend always listens patiently to your rants. Rather than letting those moments slip by, acknowledge them. You might say, "That meal was so delicious. I'm convinced you're secretly a 5-star chef." Playful remarks not only lift spirits, but also reinforce the behaviors you value. As a practical tip, consider keeping a gratitude journal. Take a few moments each day to jot down at least one thing you appreciate about the people in your life. Over time, you'll cultivate a mindset that not only sees the good, but also spreads it like confetti wherever you go. Chapter 15. Growing Together. Partners in Progress. In life, we often find ourselves navigating the choppy waters of personal growth, and it turns out having a partner in this journey can make all the difference. Imagine trying to climb a mountain solo. Challenging, right? You need that motivational cheerleader, the one who knows when to give you a gentle push or remind you to hydrate. Mutual support forms the backbone of our development, allowing us to embrace our true selves while feeling safe to stumble and learn along the way. Think about it. When you share your goals with someone who genuinely cares, you're not just talking. You're creating an instant accountability buddy system. Their excitement becomes your fuel, and your enthusiasm feeds theirs. It's important to recognize how powerful it can be to have someone rooting for you, especially when self-doubt creeps in like an uninvited guest at a party. During those moments when you question whether you've lost the plot on your journey, a supportive partner can shine a light on your strengths. They help us see the bigger picture when we're bogged down by the minutiae of our daily struggles. So when you think about personal growth, consider the folks who stand by your side, cheering you on, reminding you to celebrate even the smallest victories, and lending an ear when things don't go as planned. No one likes to fail, yet failure is often our best teacher. That's why celebrating each other's successes and failures is so crucial. Picture this. You've just bombed a presentation, and instead of curling up in a ball of embarrassment, your partner swings by with a cake that reads, "You survived." It may sound silly, but taking the time to acknowledge those tough moments can lighten the emotional burden. We learn from our missteps and grow closer as we recount each absurd moment together, from the fluffed lines to the collective cringe. Laughing at our failures not only brings us together, but transforms pain into laughter, reminding us we're all just human. On the flip side, celebrating victories, big or small, fosters an uplifting atmosphere of positivity and achievement. It might be as simple as giving a high five or throwing a mini party for landing that dream job. Acknowledging success helps reinforce our efforts and build momentum, propelling us forward. Your partner becomes your mirror, reflecting the hard work and determination that often goes unnoticed. This mutual recognition is invaluable. It not only strengthens our bond, but also serves as a reminder that we're in it together, no matter how life turns out. So the next time you find yourself facing a setback or achieving a goal, remember to share those moments with your partner. They're not just your cheerleader. They're a crucial part of your journey, helping to weave the intricate tapestry of your growth. The beauty of change. Change is one of those inevitable truths we must learn to accept in relationships. It's as predictable as the changing of the seasons. One moment, everything seems serene, and then, suddenly, a discussion about the sock on the floor turns into an existential crisis about the life choices we've made. The key is understanding that these shifts are not just permissible but necessary. Relationships evolve as we grow. Since we're all flawed, quirky beings, it's incredibly normal for our expectations and desires to change. Look, I once thought pineapple on pizza was a culinary crime. But like any true love story, my taste evolved, and now, I defend that bold choice like a knight in shining armor. We all have preferences that shift. Acknowledging these changes is the first step toward a deeper connection. Let's not forget the humor in this evolution. The way you both snicker at inside jokes now might differ in a few years. What was once a funny voicemail left by your partner may turn into that exhibit about their questionable taste in comedy. In relationships, change means adapting and finding joy in those awkward moments. It gives us something to laugh about, something to reminisce over, and sometimes even something to groan about together. That shared humor during changing times strengthens the bond between partners. So, take a moment and remind yourself that it's normal to feel a little disoriented when things shift. It's just part of the glorious, messy ride. When we think of evolution in relationships, it often refers to that beautiful metamorphosis where two people grow together. But here's the catch: it requires active participation. Picture those long, deep conversations where you uncover parts of each other that were hidden, like your partner's traumatic experience with a piñata as a child. Those moments are pivotal. They demonstrate how embracing change is not just about understanding it, it's about diving into it together. Dance through the awkwardness and embrace vulnerability. The journey becomes delightful when you do, and suddenly you are co-authors of your unique love story. Next time you feel the winds of change blowing through your relationship, lean in. Embrace the unknown, laugh at the quirks, and never forget that every ebb and flow makes the dance of love that much more vibrant and exciting. A practical tip? Schedule regular check-ins with each other. Just carve out some time to discuss what's working and what needs a little tweaking. It keeps you both aligned amidst the beautiful chaos of change. Leaving a legacy of love. Building a legacy of love starts with creating shared values and traditions that hold meaning for everyone involved. Think about those quirky rituals that make your family unique. Whether it's a Sunday pancake contest where only one person manages to set off the smoke alarm, or a secret family handshake that takes years to perfect. These shared moments not only create memories, but also bind families together. They serve as a reminder of love and connection, and they can be passed down through generations. Every time you gather around the dinner table or participate in the goofy family games, you reinforce the importance of togetherness. Moreover, these little traditions become the stories shared at future gatherings, often eliciting laughter and reminding everyone of the love that forms the foundation of the family unit. When considering how to leave a legacy of love, it's critical to plan for a future where love thrives. This involves not just dreaming about the good times, but also discussing and preparing for the tougher moments. Open conversations about life's ups and downs help build a foundation of trust and support that can carry your loved ones through challenges. It's about cultivating understanding, reminding everyone that it's okay to feel sad, frustrated, or even feed a bad hair day, as long as they know there's a safe place to share those feelings. Create an environment where each person feels valued, where saying I love you is as common as passing the potatoes at dinner. Such openness fosters connection and allows love to flourish, ensuring that your legacy is as comforting to the heart as Grandma's famous cookie recipe. Shared values shine brightest when they come from the heart. When you think of what legacy you want to leave, focus on creating connections built on love, laughter, and a little bit of spontaneity. Remember, it's the simple, everyday moments that truly matter. So don't be afraid to embrace the silly side of life in your legacy. Chapter 16. Moving Beyond Stereotypes. Breaking Free from Labels. Gender stereotypes are like those unwelcome party guests who show up and just won't leave. You know the type. The ones who insist on sticking their noses into everyone's business, telling us how to dress, act, and even think. From a young age, we're bombarded with these roles. Boys are supposed to be tough, while girls are expected to be sweet and nurturing. It's like someone handed out scripts, and we all thought it was a comedy show, except it turned into a tragedy for many. Recognizing these stereotypes is the first step toward breaking free. Once you spot them, it's easier to challenge them. Ask yourself, why can't a boy wear pink? Or why is a woman extolled for being nurturing, but critiqued for being ambitious? This is not just about getting riled up about social norms. It's about giving ourselves, and everyone around us, the freedom to be authentic. The more we laugh at the absurdity of these labels, the more we can reclaim our true selves. Encouraging authenticity in relationships is akin to creating a safe space where everyone can be themselves, quirks, flaws, and all. The first step is to model this behavior. If you can show up as your unfiltered, goofy self, a little messy at times, others will find the courage to do the same. It's important to ditch the titles and expectations like the perfect friend or the flawless partner. In my experience, relationships flourish when you make room for authenticity. Ask open-ended questions that reveal the real person behind the labels. Just think, instead of saying how's work, try what's the most ridiculous thing that happened to you this week. You'll find that honesty and laughter bond you closer than any label can. It's about celebrating who people are at their core, and I promise you, the more authentic the connection, the more fulfilling it becomes. Encourage people to shed the weight of their masks, and you'll discover relationships that are vibrant, resilient, and genuinely uplifting. Remember, authenticity isn't a destination. It's a delightful journey filled with unexpected detours. As you navigate breaking free from labels, keep this in mind. Humor is a powerful tool. Use it when confronting stereotypes or when fostering genuine connections. Whether it's cracking a joke about outdated norms or simply sharing a laugh with friends, find the delight in dismantling those rigid expectations. After all, the world needs more authenticity and less seriousness. Celebrating diversity. Differences in partnerships can often feel like a roller coaster ride, with unexpected twists and turns that keep us engaged and entertained. Embracing these differences can be a joyful experience, leading to a richer understanding of those we share our lives with. When I first met my partner, the differences were glaringly apparent. I'm all about planning, while they prefer the spontaneous approach. At first, I thought this would be a recipe for disaster, but as we navigated our way through life together, I recognized that these contrasting styles brought an element of excitement that our relationship thrives on. We learned to blend structure with freedom, turning life into a wonderful dance where we both lead and follow, depending on the day. This understanding of each other's unique perspectives allowed us to appreciate the beauty that comes from diversity. Each differing opinion sharpened our discussions, encouraging us to see the world from various angles, much like looking at a kaleidoscope where every twist reveals yet another stunning pattern. Inclusivity in relationships is akin to adding vibrant colors to a bland canvas. It transforms the mundane into art. When we open our hearts and minds to people from different backgrounds, we start to collect experiences and stories that enrich our lives and broaden our horizons. I've had the privilege of forming friendships with people from all walks of life, and let me tell you, each one has added a unique brushstroke to my personal masterpiece. There's humor in our differences. My friend from Brazil once explained that churrasco is not just barbecue. It's an all-day festival of grilling that demands participation. I ended up spending 15 hours at this festival, heartily devouring meat, singing along to songs in a language I barely understood, but feeling incredibly included. It taught me that fostering inclusivity doesn't just enhance relationships, but it creates opportunities for laughter, learning, and deep connections that would otherwise be lost. It's all about weaving a fabric rich with diverse threads, each adding strength and beauty to the whole, allowing our relationships to become something greater than the sum of their parts. Being aware of our own biases and actively working to include others can lead to profound changes in the way we interact and engage with the world. A practical tip is to invite different perspectives into your daily life, be it through friends, colleagues, or community activities. The next time you're faced with a decision, ask for input from someone with a contrasting viewpoint. You might be surprised at how a fresh perspective can shine a light on aspects you hadn't even considered, enriching your relationship and making the journey all the more enjoyable. A love without limits. Love is one of those convoluted emotions that we often approach with a set of preconceived notions. We often think it must fit into neat little boxes, like a jigsaw puzzle that insists on having all its pieces in the right spot. Yet, every time I attempt to shove my feelings into these boxes, I discover they refuse to cooperate. It's almost comical how love can feel so loose, so wild, breaking down barriers we've constructed over time. For me, this journey into a love without limits began with a peculiar understanding. Real love often transcends the definitions we've been given. It isn't bound by gender or geography or even the conventional expectations society imposes. It's liberating to realize that love can appear in the most unexpected forms, leaving both our hearts and minds astonished. Opening ourselves to love's many shapes invites laughter and joy into our lives. It teaches us profound lessons about acceptance and connection, reminding us that our experiences matter, even if they don't match the traditional narrative. There's humor in navigating these complexities, learning to embrace the chaos, and understanding that love, in all its forms, brings a richness to our existence that we can't afford to overlook. When I look at the wide panorama of relationships, I can't help but chuckle at how seriously we've taken our love lives at times. It's like we've been playing a game, desperately trying to fit our romances into cookie-cutter molds when they beg for creativity. Embracing all forms of relationships as valid opens our eyes and hearts to endless possibilities. From friendships that blossom into love to polyamorous settings where love stretches and bends, the validity of these connections is a reminder that our hearts are intelligent in ways we often underestimate. Imagine the delightful anecdotes we create as we navigate the diverse landscape of love with friends, partners, and others who hold bits of our hearts. Each relationship contributes to our growth, and the beauty lies in accepting that there's no single path to fulfillment. It's like trying to find the right topping for a pizza. Some may prefer pepperoni, while others happily choose pineapple. And let's face it, whether you love anchovies or simply can't stand the thought, everyone has their distinct flavor of love worth sharing. Validating each type of relationship we encounter fosters understanding, laughter, and incredible connections, allowing us to embrace humanity in all its messy, beautiful forms. Chapter 17: The Universal Language of Connection. What truly unites us? At the heart of every human being, there are core experiences that weave an invisible thread of connection. These experiences, like the common thread in a fabric, form a tapestry of shared stories and emotions. Think about it. We all have moments when we feel joy, sadness, fear, and love. These are not bound by geography, age, or gender. Instead, they create a bridge between our differences, allowing us to connect on a deeper level. I recall a time when I found myself unexpectedly bonding with someone across a crowded room simply because we both laughed at the same ridiculous joke. Suddenly, the world around us faded, and it was just us, united by the sheer absurdity of life. It's these little moments of shared laughter and empathy that ground us and remind us that beneath our diverse exteriors, we grapple with the same fundamental hurdles: insecurity, hope, and the timeless quest for belonging. As we peel away the layers of what divides us, we begin to uncover shared emotions that boldly transcend gender. It's fascinating how both men and women, regardless of societal expectations, feel anxiety before a big presentation or the universal pang of heartbreak after a relationship ends. I've often joked with friends about the embarrassing scenarios we find ourselves in, from tripping in public to blundering through awkward conversations. In those moments, we laugh and commiserate, realizing that vulnerability is a language we all speak fluently, even if we sometimes pretend otherwise. The joy of realizing that we can all relate to the same quagmire is contagious and liberating. The next time you encounter someone from a different walk of life, take a moment. You might discover they too have once faced a similar ordeal that made their heart race or brought them to tears. It is through these revelations that we can forge genuine connections that stand the test of time. Understanding these shared experiences not only helps build relationships, but also reminds us to embrace the beautifully messy nature of humanity. Humor often serves as a great unifier. It breaks down walls and builds bridges, offering a comfortable space for us to reveal our true selves. So next time you find yourself in a room full of strangers, don't shy away from sharing a laugh or a story. You never know who might share in the unexpected joy of your experiences. It's these moments that not only unite us, but make the ride of life a lot more enjoyable. Building bridges, not walls. Building bridges starts with the small steps we take to understand each other better. One effective strategy is to genuinely listen to the stories of others. It's easy to jump to conclusions or judge someone based on their appearance or a few words. But when we take the time to hear their experiences, something magical happens. We realize how similar we truly are. Our fears, our dreams, and our struggles often mirror each other's. Just recently, I found myself in a conversation with someone whose views were the complete opposite of mine. Yet as we talked, we discovered our shared passion for the same obscure band. This common ground became the fulcrum on which we balanced our differences, allowing us to explore the complexities of our perspectives without hostility. Another valuable strategy is to encourage empathy, not just as a buzzword, but as a genuine practice. When we actively put ourselves in someone else's shoes, it often leads to unexpected insights. Imagine if everyone made a habit of saying, "I see where you're coming from," instead of "you're wrong." The transformation in tone and intention can shift a heated exchange into a productive dialogue. Humor can also be a powerful tool in building connections. Sharing a laugh can dissolve barriers, even when the topic is serious. I once attended a community forum about a divisive local issue. One insightful participant made a joke about how the local squirrels probably had more unity than the people in the room. Suddenly, everyone was chuckling, and for a brief moment, we were just a bunch of humans sharing a space, rather than combatants in a debate. Barriers often stem from misunderstandings, fears, or stereotypes that we may not even be aware of. To overcome these, we must first acknowledge that they exist. This means confronting our preconceptions and being willing to admit when we might be wrong. I learned this the hard way when I bumped into an old classmate from high school who I had unfairly judged based on their quiet demeanor back then. As it turned out, they had become an incredible advocate for mental health awareness, a topic I hold dear to my heart. Our previous high school labels were meaningless in the light of our shared values and the vibrant life stories we both had to tell. Creating environments that encourage personalized interactions is also essential. It's amazing what happens when people are brought together outside their usual circles. A potluck, a community cleanup, or a collaborative art project goes a long way. These informal, relaxed settings enable us to connect as human beings rather than representatives of dogmatic groups. One practical method I discovered is mingling during community events to playfully challenge the barriers we uphold. For instance, instead of lining up by group affiliations, why not have everyone switch name tags? It's surprising how this simple act can provoke laughter and spark curiosity about others' identities and stories, paving the way to deeper connections that erode division. When it comes to overcoming barriers, reminders that we all have more in common than not can strengthen our resolve. Start with the curiosity to engage, and each conversation can become a stepping stone toward understanding. Even if it seems daunting at first, remember, every great connection starts with just a simple word. Tell me about your story. A path to deeper love. Creating pathways to profound connections begins with the little things we often overlook. It's amazing how a simple look, a shared laugh, or even a spontaneous dance can bridge the gap between two souls. These are not just moments. They are the building blocks of intimacy. Think about the times when you and a loved one shared a fleeting glance that said more than words ever could. Those are the moments that stick with us, shaping our relationship into something deeper and more meaningful. We often underestimate the power of vulnerability and authenticity. Offering a piece of our true selves can create an unspoken bond that transforms casual interactions into heartfelt connections. Finding ways to reveal our quirks and vulnerabilities can truly ignite a flame of closeness that's hard to extinguish. The transformative power of shared experiences and understanding cannot be overstated. Remember that time you and your partner tried to cook a new recipe, only for it to turn into a comedic disaster? These shared stories, marked by laughter and maybe a hint of chaos, are essential threads in the tapestry of our relationships. They remind us that we are in this together, facing the ups and downs side by side. Empathy plays a crucial role, too. When we make the effort to understand each other's feelings and perspectives, even the mundane becomes meaningful. It's in those moments of listening that we allow space for our loved ones to feel seen and heard. This connection is so powerful that just thinking about it often brings a smile. Understanding and shared experiences cultivate a garden of love where relationships can grow and flourish. To really deepen your connections, try to take time out for those experiences that make your heart sing or even just giggle. Whether it's a silly game night or an adventurous hike, prioritize fun and authenticity. Make it a point to learn something new together, engage in each other's passions, or simply sit together in silence every now and then. The key is to stay curious about each other, never letting the flame of discovery grow cold. By actively investing in these moments, you build a reservoir of love that can weather any storm. So go ahead, embrace the messy and the spontaneous, because love isn't always neat, and that's what makes it so beautifully human. Conclusion: 2 minds, 1 heart. Reflecting on the journey. Every journey teaches us something, and reflecting on the key insights gained from my exploration feels like rummaging through a treasure chest of personal growth. One striking realization was that the path is rarely straight and smooth. It twists and turns, often leading to unexpected discoveries. There were moments when I stumbled, tripped over my own expectations, and thought, is this really happening? The beauty lies in these moments, because they force me to confront my limits, challenge my perspectives, and sometimes laugh at my own folly. It's a bit like trying to navigate a maze blindfolded. Frustrating at times, but, oh, the stories I could tell. Encouraging ongoing reflection is vital as we continue our journeys. It's not just about celebrating the victories or hiding away the failures. It's about embracing every awkward dance move along the way. Personal growth isn't a destination. It's a series of steps, some graceful, others resembling a three-legged race on a slick surface. Ask yourself questions that make your brain do a little gymnastics. What did I learn about myself today? How did I react when things went awry? By engaging in regular reflection, we transform our experiences into valuable lessons. You see, laughter and insight can be traveling companions. So, keep a journal, chat with a friend, or simply sit quietly and think. Every moment is an opportunity to evolve, and who knows? You might just find yourself chuckling at the little messes that shaped you into the person you are today. The power of understanding. Understanding is like the magic glue that holds the fabric of our relationships together. It's not just about knowing what someone feels, but being able to share in that feeling. When we empathize, we basically give someone a virtual hug with our minds. We all know that uncomfortable moment when someone overshares and you swallow hard, trying to find the right words. The key is in embracing the awkwardness and letting empathy lead the way. When you truly listen to someone, not just with your ears, but with your heart, it changes everything. Your friend who is ranting about their bad day isn't just looking for a sympathetic nod. They want to know that you get it. And let's face it, no one wants to be that friend who is just nodding along, thinking about what's for dinner instead of genuinely engaging. By showing empathy, we reassure others that they're not alone in their experiences, be it joy or sorrow. This little act can deepen connections and even lighten the load of life's heavier moments. Understanding isn't a one-way street. It's a gentle dance between two people. Think of it as a rhythm where you sway to the beats of each other's thoughts and feelings. When you start to grasp what makes someone tick, the floodgates of communication swing open. Your conversations shift from surface-level chatter to rich discussions that build trust. Suddenly, you aren't just two people stuck at the same party. You become companions navigating life together. Imagine you've just had a misunderstanding with a close friend. Instead of jumping to conclusions or reacting impulsively, take a step back. You'd be amazed at how pulling the understanding card can reshape that entirely. Instead of a short email filled with typos, throw in some context. Ask questions instead of making accusations. This transformation in how we relate to each other can pave the way for healthier relationships and a more supportive community. It promotes a space where everyone feels their voice matters and trust flows freely like coffee on a Monday morning. So next time life throws a curveball, remember to approach it with an empathetic mindset and watch as relationships blossom like wildflowers in spring. A practical tip for cultivating understanding is to practice active listening. This means putting away distractions, making eye contact, and really soaking in what the other person is saying. In doing so, you're not just hearing their words, but you're tuning into their emotions and body language, enriching that exchange and forging a stronger bond. Little changes can lead to profound connections. An invitation to love deeper. There's something undeniably powerful about applying the lessons we've learned about love. It's like having a toolkit filled with everything we need to create connections that are not just strong, but deeply enriching. When we take the time to reflect on our experiences, whether they're filled with triumphs or a few embarrassing moments, because let's face it, we all have those, we gather insights that help us understand what love means to us. The trick is to take these insights and genuinely apply them in our everyday lives. It's the difference between knowing why a cake recipe works and actually getting your hands messy in the kitchen. When we actively engage in deepening our relationships, we start to notice the little things that matter, like how your partner's eyes light up over a shared joke or how the warmth of a hug can melt away the stress of the day. By encouraging ourselves to embrace these moments, we enhance our ability to love deeply and authentically. Now, let's get to the juicy part, the call to action for deepening love and connection. Picture this. You're in a situation where you could either scroll mindlessly on your phone or pick up the phone and call someone who means a lot to you. It's in these seemingly simple choices that deeper love flourishes. Imagine setting aside time each week to write heartfelt notes to friends or surprise a loved one with something unexpected, like their favorite snack. It doesn't have to be grand. Sometimes, it's the little gestures that pack the biggest punch. When you make an effort to reach out and connect, it's like watering a plant. You see it grow and thrive. And let's be honest, who doesn't want to grow something beautiful? So let's challenge ourselves to create those moments of connection, whether through a spontaneous adventure, a deep conversation, or simply sharing laughter over a silly memory. Together, we can build a culture of deeper love, one heartfelt action at a time. Here's a practical tip. Plan one day a week where you intentionally engage in an act of love, big or small. It could be as simple as sharing an inside joke over coffee or writing down 3 things you appreciate about someone and sharing them. This practice not only helps you to focus on what truly matters, but also enhances your ability to connect with others in more meaningful ways. Love isn't born from perfection. It's cultivated through intentional actions that weave the fabric of our relationships. As we come to the end of this journey, it's important to reflect on the profound truth at the heart of human relationships. We are not as different as we often think. Beneath the nuances of gender psychology, beyond the contrasts in how we communicate, feel, or act, lies a shared desire for connection, love, and understanding. The beauty of relationships is not in erasing our differences, but in learning to navigate them with empathy and wisdom. Each step we take toward understanding one another, be it through better communication, emotional awareness, or honoring the unique ways we express love, strengthens the bond that unites us. This journey is not just about improving relationships with others, but also about deepening the relationship we have with ourselves. The insights shared in Two Minds, One Heart, Unlocking the Secrets of Gender Psychology, written and published by Mindful Literary, are tools to help you build bridges, not walls. Whether in romantic partnerships, friendships, family ties, or professional relationships, the principles you've explored here are universal. They invite you to see the people in your life not as mysteries to be solved, but as mirrors reflecting shared humanity. Remember, understanding is an ongoing process, and relationships are living, breathing entities that grow and evolve. The work you've done here is not the end, but the beginning of a deeper, more fulfilling journey with yourself and those around you. Continue to approach every interaction with curiosity, patience, and an open heart. As you move forward, may you carry with you the wisdom that every difference is an opportunity for growth, every conversation a chance to connect, and every challenge an invitation to love more deeply. The secret is not in changing who we are, but in learning to honor the harmony that emerges when two minds, shaped by different experiences, meet in one shared heart. Thank you for joining me on this journey. Here's to a lifetime of connection, understanding, and the joy of navigating this beautiful dance of human relationships. Keep your heart open, your mind curious, and your relationships thriving.